A warm welcome to Spa-Francorchamps for our coverage of the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup. This is round 5 of the inaugural season for the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup. My name's Johnny Palmer and I'm joined by Graham Goodwin to my right of Daily Sports Car. The Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup makes a trip to Spa-Francorchamps for the 5th round of the inaugural season of this championship. We're here at the 7-kilometre, 4.3-mile circuit, the twists and turns and the huge gradient change of this fabulous Grand Prix circuit. They've been racing here since 1922 and we have 12 cars about to compete over the next 2 hours for round 5 of the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup. My name's Johnny Palmer. I'm joined to my right by Graham Goodwin, the editor of dailysportscar.com. We've already had qualifying, Graham, earlier on today. Of course, the Cup itself confined, as far as the competitive action is concerned, to a single day, with qualifying in the morning and the race late into the evening, because we're now close to 5:30 local time. This race won't be done till 7:30. And, well, there is a dominant crew, you could say. The SMP Racing Ferrari, the 488, you can just about see to the left of your picture there. But it was made to work during qualifying earlier on today.
It was indeed, and with the cooling air from this point in, as the sun starts to head down towards the horizon at the end of this race, we'll be ending in pretty much dust conditions, I think it's fair to say here. Who knows what this might do? Alongside there we've got the number 55 McLaren, and that's a car that's been very much on the pace throughout the season but has had absolutely none of the luck whatsoever, and they're about to do battle over the next 2 hours around this fabulous 7 kilometres of pure motorsport heaven that is the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. That's the run down the Camel Straight to Les Combes, Forest, the Ardennes either side, and then as you come around through Les Combes and down the hill, the difference in the gradient here, the rise and fall of this circuit is quite astonishing. And if we carry on with this shot, you'll see from here it just goes downhill. You could lose the engine there and still complete the lap. It's quite an amazing circuit, quite astonishing stuff. There's the 72 car, pole position. This is the number 55 for Hiroshi, and it's who's going to start the car? Will it be Hiroshi Hamaguchi?
Yeah,
it's going to start the car. Adrian Quaife-Hobbs still to come then. So we've grown used to in this series this season, Johnny, is these two phases of competition. Generally speaking, but not exclusively, the bronze drivers that tend to start, which means that these guys get a good hour to learn their trade against their peers before we get the more professionally graded drivers quite often to finish the race. This car, by the way, the Auto Club Excelsior Aston Martin, did very well indeed in qualifying. Local entry from Aston Martin through Aston Martin Brussels, of course. And is it Michael Schmetz rather that's going to start the car?
Yes, a real star in qualifying and looked like he might actually snatch pole position at one point. Schmetz, a local specialist to this place, and great to have Auto Club Excelsior as part of the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup. It might just be for this single round, sharing with Tim Verburg, another Belgian driver, and gold rated against or with Michael Schmetz, who is the bronze driver. Remember, you've got to have at least one bronze driver in your combination, and it's the bronze driver who must do all of the qualifying, which is a great element to this Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup. Puts an awful lot of responsibility on the arguably less able, certainly less experienced driver.
Sally Yullock there at the wheel of the TF Sport car, the winner of the first round in Imola, and the second Aston Martin on the grid, the 34 car. What can they do? Ewan Hankey at the end of the last round at Paul Ricard certainly turned on the style. They're still in the very much in the championship hunt, but really now require the SMP Racing guys to have a bad day here. So let's wait and see. It wouldn't be the first time it's happened in this championship. We have had some dramas before. We've had first lap dramas at the Red Bull Ring, which accounted for the McLaren. But so far, after missing the first round, the Russian pairing of Alexei Basov and Viktor Shaitar have had it more or less their own way. It's a quality driver lineup in a high-quality car with a very good team running it, and that's proved a mountain to climb for the rest here.
There's 3 pole positions they've had now at Red Bull Ring, Paul Ricard, and here at Spa. They've already had 3 wins as well, and include the Road to Le Mans race on the Saturday morning of the great race in June. That was full point scoring as well, so they got 25 for winning that slightly shorter race of just less than an hour. The other races through the season, though, have all been 2-hour affairs, starting at Imola, and there is this race and 1 more to come at Estoril, so potential 52 points, 51 points now that the pole position's been decided, still on the table. But yeah, if the 72 crew can win here at Spa, that will be 4 wins in a row, and the pressure really on for the TF Sport crew.
The pace car is rolling. Look down onto the Spa-Francorchamps pits complex, and it's slightly slow getaway there from the 72 car.
Yeah, so the McLaren beating the Ferrari to La Source on this, the green flag lap. A reminder that it is slightly different in the teams championship because SMP Racing weren't known as SMP Racing at Le Mans. It was still Basov and Shaitar Racing there, but they had a different car number and they were entered as AF Corsa. You can only score points if you keep your team name the same through the season. So of course they didn't score at Le Mans, technically speaking. They did score a win at Red Bull Ring, and so too at Ricard. So in the teams championship, TF Sport lead on 67 points and 15 points adrift. SMP Racing with their 72 car. So we could see TF Sport extend their championship lead, but they've work to do because Sally Yoluk, who I presume will start, yes, the 34 car, just appearing now at the start of the Kemmel Straight in 5th position, and he's quite a way back from that Porsche of Egidio Perfetti. That'll all bunch up there at the end of this 7-kilometre lap. It'll be a rolling start for a 2-hour GT3 race, and the cars will all be, or should all be, in roughly starting formation as they head out of Blanchemont corner and down towards the chicane at the end of the lap. This is a chance though to get tyre temperature up, get some heat into the brakes as well, and weaving ferociously there, Michael Schmetz in his number 90 Aston Martin from Auto Club Excelsior. The top 2 have broken away from everybody else, and I'm sure that there will be instruction now to the teams and their drivers to try and close these gaps up sooner rather than later. Sally Yoluk just appearing there at the second part of Pouhon. Behind him is Eric Cayrol, starting from 6th position. And to start the number 66 Lamborghini Huracan, it'll be Mark Poole alongside Thomas Fleur, who was certainly throwing his number 51 Ferrari around during qualifying. Managed to get into the top 10 shootout, Super Pole, and in the end qualified the car in 8th place ahead of Mads Rasmussen and Cedric Mezar. Reminder that earlier on in qualifying, the 2 cars that didn't make it through into the second portion, the second 15 minutes, Ivor Dunbar in the number 25 FF Corsa Ferrari, and Adrian Delina, although it was Pierre-Marie Delina to qualify.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
He is the more professionally ranked driver in this car. So the one car that is not racing with the driver known to be the less pacey is the last car on the grid. And if I recall correctly, last time out, Adrian Delina put an absolute storming drive in that car, albeit by then, I think, a lap or 2 down, but was actually coming by cars that you know, I think we're quite surprised to see the 14 car going through. It'd be interesting to see what Adrian Delina can do in the early part of this race. If he can return that form, then we could see the 14 car making some real progress here.
Nearing the end of the lap then, and this is the time that the cars need to get into rolling start formation ahead of round 5 of the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup. The breakaway championship, if you like, after GTC left the European Le Mans Series last year. We still have GT cars represented in the ELMS, but they're all GTE cars. GTC, out of that, was born the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup, and there are just 2 races to go in its inaugural season. Much is promised ahead of the 2017 season, by the way, of this championship. Real jewel in the crown is the race at Le Mans to support the 24 hours. But here at Spa, this is a big sell as well. Who will get the better of the starts then between the SMP Racing Ferrari, the blue, red and white car, and the black Triple F Racing McLaren 650S? We're waiting for the 5 red lights to be extinguished. They go green now, and that's a good start from Alexei Basov as well as Hiroshi Hamaguchi. Egidio Buffetti thought about threading the eye of the needle there. He slots into 3rd position, and did the Aston get through? Yes, it did. Plenty of cars out wide. Hammering the curb there, though, was Michael Schmetz. He's got a good exit out of La Source. It's Hiroshi Hamaguchi that leads the race, though, down the hill towards Eau Rouge for the first time, and the Ferrari, if he's not careful, will disappear into 3rd. No, 2nd place at Eau Rouge and through Radion, but a great getaway from the Japanese driver Hiroshi Hamaguchi to take the race lead on the opening lap, Graham.
Absolutely brilliant stuff from Hiroshi Hamaguchi. Adrian Delena, by the way, I think he's up to 7th or 8th position and still making his way, threading it through there. You can see in the centre of the picture, but great start from the McLaren driver. It looked very much as if the Aston Martin might, first the Aston Martins might come through in 2nd, gave better than that, as indeed there does Sally Yullock against the classic and modern Ferrari, and gives that place up. But that was close run thing. Couple of cars, of course, running wide to stay out of trouble. Here comes Delena looking up the inside at the moment of Sally Yullock. But cracking few corners and actually pretty clean as well.
I thought for a moment it was all going to go horribly wrong, but it's strange that the starts of these races have been getting cleaner and cleaner, if I can say that. We've had some nightmarish starts to some of these races, but yes, everyone is still in this, which is great to see. And it's a tricky first corner to get through, particularly here in Belgium. You don't get many circuits where it's hammer to the floor and then all stop for a hairpin and then get going again.
And then go to one of the most awesome corners in the world.
Exactly. It's quite a start to the lap, and that's an incredible amount of credit to all these drivers. They managed to get through that first bit of the opening lap, and it should get a little easier from this point on as each car finds its own space. Hamaguchi then leading by half a second from Alexei Basov. They don't need to push too hard here, SMP Racing, certainly in the early stages, and no doubt they will have had a conversation before the start of this race saying, hey, it doesn't matter if you lose the race lead or even slip down to 3rd position for the first lap. Egidio Buffetti, though, has got some ground to make up in the race and in the championship. Would like to get ahead of Michael Schmetz early on so he doesn't lose touch with the 2 leaders. A little bit too deep there for K-Roll into the final chicane, and that might present an opportunity for Sally Yolok, who has lost a spot, hasn't he, to that Ferrari?
He has, and they're looking at the outside line going down towards La Source now. Can he do that? He doesn't do, ducks up the inside. And is it all... luckily the Ferrari man saw him there, almost turned in, but then brushed the back of the Aston Martin, lost a little ground, and that's allowed... And there's trouble behind. That's Mark Poole.
And Mads Rasmussen.
I think... I'm not sure.
Or Thomas Fleur.
It could have been Fleur. It looked like a light-coloured car.
It did. Now, the Rasmussen car is white.
It is Thomas Fleur, and there's damage to both those cars.
I was about to say the Fleur car is silver.
And that was Thomas Fleur making heavy contact with the Lamborghini to the side of the car. So there's damage to the side of the Lamborghini to the front of the Ferrari, and I suspect we've probably seen the last of both those cars.
Bits of Ferrari and bits of Lamborghini strewn across the track. That area covered by yellow flags. I wouldn't be surprised to see a full course caution or a safety car. Well, driver's door or passenger door.
I was about to say, I think
heavily.
You're going to see debris there.
Yeah.
Can we do this under local yellows? We'll wait and see.
But the right-hand side of that Lamborghini Huracan, which is a pretty car, heavily stoved in, I'm afraid to say, after contact with Thomas Fleur. What we haven't seen is the build-up to that incident. It might be that the camera was focused on the leaders, of course, and not pointing in the right direction at the time of the clash, which was a little further down the order for 7th, 8th position. So that's a real shame. I spoke too soon there, Graham.
What a shame. So at the moment, it's Hamaguchi from Alexei Basov, 0.4 of a second as they came through the first sector. Then a couple of seconds back now, it's Egidio Buffetti, then Schmetz, So the Porsche man has got by the number 90 Aston Martin while we were busy with the incident at turn 1.
We are under safety car.
It is
we
a
are
safety
under
car.
safety car. Please alert your drivers. I've got one car stopped at the exit of T1, and I've got another car stopped down the road. We are under safety car. Please slow down immediately.
Eduardo Freitas, who's looking after this race, he's the clerk of the course, as he is for the World Endurance Championship and the European Le Mans Series, looking after matters in the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup as well. Thomas Fleur leaving his braking too late, arguably, and the front left wheel of that car hanging loose by just a single suspension strut, no doubt.
It looked like a classic La Source incident with the Lamborghini turning in and finding, to his horror, that trying very late, too late, I'm afraid, outbraking manoeuvre up the inside was Thomas Fleur. The contact was clearly very heavy indeed. It's actually good news that Mark Poole was able to continue down as far as he did. So clearly Mark...
Yes, sat on presumably the left-hand side of the car. Most of these cars are left hookers, so he's got the impact on the passenger side, thankfully. Here's a replay of the start, and cars fanning out, particularly Adrian Delina trying to get a good start. There's the Lamborghini Huracan of Mark Poole, and he's on the left. Right, okay. Mark sat on the left-hand side. Sadly, Richard Abra won't get an opportunity to drive that car, nor Thomas Fleur's co-driver.
Francesco Castellacci.
Thank you. Yeah, they've been together all season, haven't they? The silver and bronze graded drivers. But under safety car, and these are pictures, by the way, from earlier on, in case you're fearful of marshals being on track and other people waving at the helicopter footage from earlier on. Or maybe it is current footage. Anyway,
that was earlier.
That was earlier on.
Yep.
I was just slightly thrown by the yellow flashing boards that you will have during a safety car.
That's a word you don't ever want to see in a French-speaking nation. With, if you're a petrol head, dépannage, that's not good. That basically means you're going back on a flatbed or on a tow, and...
Not to Verviers.
One would hope not. That's a long way if you're in Toulouse. That's bad news indeed for both those squads.
Yeah, Mark Lemmer, who runs Barwell Motorsport, AF Corsa, Amato Ferrari's nigh-on works team for Ferrari, and they, well, are famous for meaning that a GT race can be official as long as you've got an AF Corsa.
It's the only way to do it.
Right?
I think it's actually now written into FIA law. Yes.
Yeah, thought so. Sadly, it looks like both cars out on the spot, so we're down to 10, and that's Ivor Dunbar, by the way, just coming through in the double F Corsa Ferrari. Very smart 488. They debuted at Imola earlier on in the year. So whilst we're under safety car and not yet 10 minutes into round 5 of the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup, let's hear from Charlie George, who is down in the pit lane for us.
Yeah, I'm down here with Francesco Castellacci. Francesco, not the start to the race you would have wanted.
Yeah, unfortunately not the start that me and Thomas and of course were expecting, but it's part of the racing, of the game, and the important thing is Thomas is all right. We will see about the car, but what we can do, think of Estoril and keep going.
Yeah, because it wasn't a very lucky race for you last time out either, was it?
Yeah, also last time we were not so lucky. But it's like this, it's racing, so we keep pushing, and we hope to finish high in Estoril.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Putting a brave face on things, Francesco Castellacci.
Thoroughly nice chap, Francesco,
yeah.
and very, very quick as well. Did a season last year in the World Endurance Championship.
Yeah, there've been one or too many incidents where, unfortunately, we haven't got to see the pro drivers in these cars, and well, it saves on their afternoon, I suppose. They'll still get paid for being here, but sadly,
I think that's a bit generous.
Oh, do you reckon?
Absolutely.
Not even in sweeties or coffee? No. Okay.
Bag of crisps and the bus fare home.
The bus fare home. Fair enough. But no, they'd sooner be driving race cars than getting the cash, I suppose. That's exactly why they're here, and that's a real shame for Thomas Fleur and indeed for this car that is being stretchered away.
So oil dry being laid on the exit of turn 1, and the drivers being warned to keep right away from that as the marshals are dealing with it.
It's been a busy day for this marshal crew, although the incident, the big crash that we had in the Renault Sport Trophy happened a bit further up the hill, but the initial impact, of course, at the source, which accounted for the Ferrari on the spot and the Huracan a bit further down the order, a bit further down the hill, means that those marshals at the source and then at marshal posts 2 and 3 have had a busy day with one thing and another. Thankfully, weather is good here, as you can tell. Late September in the middle of Belgium and the Ardennes forest. This place famous for having its own weather system at times, but temperature's good, a light breeze and no chance of rain, at least this evening. I've seen the forecast for tomorrow. It's very similar, but you never know at this place, with the 4 hours of Spa-Francorchamps to look forward to in the European Le Mans Series. Look at the damage at the rear right of that Lamborghini.
That's had a big hit on the right side. There's the remains of, well, it's now Ferrari 486, I think. It's Thomas Fleur. Damage to the front left, principally, of that car, and that's the point of impact, I think, with the side of the Huracan. Great to see how well those cars held up.
And more hard work from the marshals just to make sure that that quick dry is weaved into the tarmac sufficiently to mop up whatever it's been soaked up there, the oil, coolant.
Sergej Zlobin in the foreground in the pink t-shirt, the 2014 WEC LMP2 Drivers' Champion, now looks after some of the commercial aspects of S&P Racing. Car currently second position. Some spectacular success been coming the way of S&P Racing in recent years. LMP2 title in the WEC, GTM title, which featured, by the way, both Basov and Chaitar in the WEC, and GT3 title 3 years ago in the LMS.
Right.
Amongst the trophies on the shelf. I'm sure it's not a shelf, I'm sure it's a fabulously built glass cabinet, but let's call it a shelf for now.
Well, I remember Alexei Basov in his days of the Ferrari Challenge, which goes around Europe, so he's a bit of a Ferrari specialist in the 458 and has taken to the 488 like a duck to water, and clearly the partnership he has with Victor Chaitar has brought him on as a driver. He is still labelled as a bronze talent, but starting to bridge that gap, you could say, now between bronze and silver, and may have to think about an alternative route for 2017 if they win the title. But it's a big
just promote him to silver and get somebody new alongside Alexei.
Yes,
that would work. They'd be very welcome back in this series. I'm absolutely certain of that.
That's true.
So McLaren, Ferrari, Porsche, Aston Martin, and then Ferrari, Ferrari. And
yeah, the other mark that we had in this race, sadly no longer represented because the Lamborghini Huracan, there was only one of those. But we're promised, well, we had fabulous variety at Le Mans, the Road to Le Mans event, and I think this is generating real interest in the GT3 world. I had a chat with Joe Osborne at Paul Ricard. He was out with Flick Haig during that meeting, and yeah, I wasn't away in a hurry. Yeah, it's fair to say. Although he did offer me a drink whilst I was down there.
Afternoon, Joe. Sure you're watching.
I'm sure you are. But he said that the unique selling point of this championship, when he's trying to sell it to drivers that he's in touch with and want to race with him, is the fact that the bronze driver has such a responsibility across the weekend.
I think there's two things for it. There is that Road to Le Mans race, which is a real carrot. There is also a very good prize fund here. The little gimme that I always give here is that the championship winner in this race actually gets more prize money than the top three in the Le Mans 24 Hours together.
Put together?
I think it's €100,000 you get for winning this. But yes, you're right. But this, in common with a couple of other products out there in the motorsport world at the moment, pretty well aimed at bringing on the skill sets and the enthusiasm levels for the gentleman drivers that are relatively new to the sport. What it's meant, and we've seen, Johnny, for the races that you and I have sat together with,
Safety car in at the end of this lap. Safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. Please remind your drivers, no overtaking before they cross the line in front of race control. No overtaking before they cross the line in front of race control.
Never interrupt Eduardo Freitas is the rule. And what it does allow them to do is to race hard against their peers. and they're gently edging themselves into the sports car world, rather than their only entry level being to sit in a race where they've got prototypes all over front and rear into wind, rain, hail, or indeed in other GT3 racing where you've got professionals in cars of broadly similar performance levels, lights out on the safety car, of course, as Eduardo Freitas said, and it's a whole different world of challenge. This is a great way to actually ease in, and I'm sure we'll see the majority of these guys actually in international sports car racing at a high level in future years. Here we go.
Hiroshi Hamaguchi will lead at the restart. Alexei Basov over the line. Egidio Perfetti third. Michael Schmetz in the yellow and white Aston fourth, just ahead of another Vantage with its V12 6-litre engine. That's Sally Yolok for TF Sport. And then Adrian Delina, who has worked his way from the back of the grid, remember, up to 6th position as they exit La Source. This is lap 6.
And of all those teams, of course, it's Adrian Delena, the 14 car, that was worse news for that delay. Absolutely belting by there, don't they?
Reminds me of a certain test track from a TV series which has gone through a bit of transition of late, but when they go through the figure of 8-bit there, that's exactly the same sort of camera point and the same sort of speed. Anyway, Adrian Delina further back in the pack now, trying to make waves on Sally Yolok. Can't do it at Les Combes, but that's a good chance of an overtake at the end of a long straight down the Kemmel Straight, and utilising the toe on the Aston. Yolok
compromised his line there, gave Adrian Delena a second nipple, and he's still looking for a way by the TF Sport 34 car. So it's time for cool heads here, with the cars compressed, obviously, under the safety car. Opportunity for fortune in both directions here. The opportunity to pass, the opportunity as well to get it wrong with the car in close contention. Well, is it yellow flags breed yellow flags? Well, not so far. And that's very good news.
Yeah, the tricky bit through La Source and Eau Rouge negotiated. Here is Alexei Basov with a good run on Hiroshi Hamaguchi round the outside at Piff Paff. Surely not. Can he keep it within the confines of the track? Yes, he can.
Wow.
And he's pulled off a fabulous manoeuvre there on Hiroshi Hamaguchi. Good driving from both, I think. Into Campus Corner. Hamaguchi still with the new race leader, but that is a stamp of authority from Alexei Basov, which is yet to be equalled, I have to say. There's fantastic driving.
That was picking what was not the optimum line. It was the McLaren driver, I suspect, having to compromise his position in defence, but in doing that, lifted off and just allowed the Ferrari driver to just clean up. Excellent move there from Basov. Now Egidio Perfetti is looking up the inside of, no doubt, slightly rattled Hamaguchi.
Yes, when you put your car in exactly the place where Hamaguchi was expecting to be able to use as the racing line, he had no option but to back out of that a little bit. And that's just another world of overtaking, you could say.
Excellent.
Not quite block passing, but just saying, right, if your car will generally wash out through this first bit of Piff Paff, but if I put my car there first, you can't get there.
Do it.
Fantastic.
Delena still looking for a way past Sally Yolok. He has, though, I think Sally got the quickest car in a straight line down the hill towards Eau Rouge, then Radion. But Delena looking with a very aggressive line through there. Now, that's all about how quickly can you exit Radion and what run do you get down the Kemmel Straight. He knows the Aston Martin's quick in a straight line. Watch the yellow Ferrari, 5 back in this line, 6 back in this line. He'll duck out somewhere. Is it going to the left? It's the right this time. Round the outside he tries, and this time, he's not made it stick. Looked like he might just do it there, but that move started as they exited La Source corner.
Yeah, straight out of the Peter Schotthorst book there, if you were watching the Renault Sport Trophy a little while ago, only the fact he didn't quite pull it off, Adrian, but he'll no doubt have another stab at it. Here is the overtake then, and he was closing between Pouhon and Fagnes corner, and well, that's wall of death stuff from the Ferrari 488. Just about had enough space to sneak through the Paff bit of Piff Paff and make that move stick for the race lead.
That's likely to be as good an overtaking manoeuvre as you see for the rest of the weekend if you stick with us and watch the 4 hours tomorrow of the European Le Mans series here. But cracking move there.
There's the Aston Martin of Sally Yolok in 5th position ahead of Adrian Delina. K-Roll in 7th position in the number 26 Classic and Modern Racing Ferrari. Mads Rasmussen is 8th. Cedric Mezar 9th in the number 8 car, and Ivor Dunbar is 10th, completing the 10-car field that we now have.
And from, well, defending himself against a charging 72 S&P racing car, Hamaguchi is now watching his mirrors. This approaching pair goes off the racing line there, the racing surface there, wide. The Porsche and the Aston Martin closing. It looks to me like Alexei Basov has cleared off here. 2 seconds to the good already. Still behind, Adrian Delena is looking for a way past Sally Yolok, but now Egidio Perfetti is getting onto terms with Hiroshi Hamaguchi for second position. It's a three-car battle here for fifth position, because not out of it by any means is Eric Carroll.
So new fastest lap, the end of lap 7, Alexei Basov, a 2:22.509, and that gives him a 2.1 second lead over Hiroshi Hamaguchi. Hamaguchi's car will be handed over to Adrian Quaive-Hobbs in due course, but have another good half an hour or so for Hamaguchi to get his teeth into. And half a second found by Alexei Basov. Is that through the first sector?
Yes, it is. In fact, 6/10, isn't it? And even that was the fastest first sector of the race so far from Hamaguchi.
Yeah. So a big part is Hamaguchi catching Basov, not the other way around. So keeping the lead battle alive. Sally Yolok having a couple of bites of the cherry at Bruxelles there, well and truly missing the apex, and Adrian Delena might be causing him a distraction there in the rear-view mirror. Again, not quite at the apex through Speaker's corner. The Ferrari not able to close quite at the rate of knots as I was expecting. There's the second place fight through the sequence of corners at Pouhon. And Egidio Perfetti may be the next car to line up Hiroshi Hamaguchi for an overtake, surely not at Pit Path. There are easier places to overtake. Lots of extra bit of track being used there by Perfetti. He did this in qualifying as well, kicking up the dust in the face of Michael Schmetz.
Schmetz has dropped back a little.
He has.
Basov, though, a very, very quick middle sector, takes a second out of all the three cars chasing him. The entire pack takes a second out of that. Order restored, 2.7 seconds now the gap, as Hamaguchi gets ever more into defensive mode.
Through Blanchimont goes the fight for second position there, and Lamborghini being shaped up this time around, but Hiroshi Hamaguchi sensibly keeps his car right in the middle of the track in the braking area for the chicane. Egidio Perfetti in two minds there as to which side to go to attempt an overtake, and this is drawing in Michael Schmetz now in fourth position. We may have three cars for second place very, very shortly. Egidio Perfetti thinks about drivers right up towards La Source for an overtake, then darts to the left. And there is a cigarette paper between the rear wing of the McLaren and the radiator of that Porsche as they head down the hill towards Eau Rouge for the 9th time.
Perfetti, wow. Perfetti there as they came through, I think was trying to dummy him into, I think he was doing the over and under and trying from the outside. It didn't work, but boy, has he got a quick exit there from Radion. Alongside now the McLaren, can he go around the outside here into the lead into Les Combes? Hamaguchi is toughing it out. He's got the inside line, he's got the optimum line there, but that's compromised his speed into the corner. That'll mean that the Porsche gets a better fire through Les Combes. Can't do it. Excellent stuff from both drivers there.
Interesting to watch the acceleration rate though from both the Porsche and the McLaren. The Porsche seemed to have the legs on the McLaren, and then when they got to top speed, that 650S was able to match the 911 under braking. Hiroshi just left his braking slightly later than he would do normally and was able to cover off the manoeuvre from Perfetti into Les Combes. More dust kicked up by the Norwegian.
And still behind that trio, it's the continuing story of Sally Yolok and Adrian Delena. The opposite of a love story at the moment, I'm sure, between the two of them. Delena wants to get by, Sally Yolok wants to be rid of the pesky Ferrari behind him to get back onto terms with this trio. Basov, meanwhile, 3 seconds to the good and pulling away.
With Delena and Sally Yolok able to go quicker than they've managed all race to this point last time around, they were both personal best times, so they're not slowing each other up. Getting quicker, if anything. Second place fight into Curve Paul Frere. An hour and 36 minutes to go. Round 5 of the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup with Johnny Palmer and Graham Goodwin of dailysportscar.com. And to Blanchimont go McLaren, Porsche, Aston Martin And then a little way off in the next position, another Aston from TF Sport. That's the car that needs to score well compared to the race leader, number 72.
Deep in there. They've been a little bit deep there in from the McLaren driver. That's allowed Perfetti just to get back on the terms. This is the gamble, isn't it? You go harder, you go faster, but just one tiny mistake and all that good work undone. And again, the two cars behind, right on his tail at a point in the circuit, which it seems that perhaps they have a little bit more of an advantage. Down the hill again, down towards Eau Rouge. This is where the excitement really started last time. Through Eau Rouge there, and up across Radion. This time it looks like the McLaren got a slightly better run, but still firing out through Radion. It looks to me that's where the Porsche's got the advantage.
Well, initial talk out of Radion, impressive from the Porsche, but the McLaren's really holding its own here, and Porsche can't get close. Stark contrast to a lap ago, and that was just down to, I think, a compromise run through Eau Rouge and Radion for Japanese driver Hamaguchi. So half a second the gap this time for the Triple F Racing team by ACM car back to the Mentos Racing machine. ACM, by the way, and that title is Andrea Caldarelli Motorsport, a man you might know from GT Racing and Super GT Racing indeed. The Italian, very, very quick indeed.
Ex-champion, I think, in Super GT, Caldarelli.
I think you are right there, yes. And I presume, don't know for a fact, but I presume Andrea is here this weekend. Super GT bursts back into life in 2 weekends' time. A message to the classic and modern racing Ferrari about track limits there, particularly at turn 4, which is the Eau Rouge Radion sequence of corners.
It's a quick shot there of Klaus Bachler in the Mentos Racing garage. That's a change to the entry list that I was provided with. That said Ben Barker was going to be in that car, but Klaus, it would appear to be. Ben Barker getting his first GT3 run last time out in Paul Ricard.
So through Blanchimont goes the fight for second, third and fourth. Fifth position still in the hands of Sally Yolok, and let's not forget about the 72 Ferrari of SMP Racing. Sideways, all crossed up there, Alexei Basov, but he seems to make that line work for him. The Aston Martin closes on the Porsche and goes way, way wide there through the second part of turn 19, the second part of the chicane, that is, and we have seen a number of cars pinged so far this weekend for pushing the track limits at turn 19. Might get a warning, well, they should get a warning initially before time penalties are issued.
Porsche closer here than it's been the last couple of laps. So this is going to be mighty close down through into Eau Rouge. It's not though about the bottom of the hill, it's about where you are at the top. Mr. Martin drops back a little because of that off and at turn 19. And Perfetti here looks to have a bit of a run on the McLaren. Which way this time? Inside, outside? Hopefully not upside down.
It will be the outside for Egidio Perfetti. He hasn't got as much of an overlap as he had 2 laps ago, though. So closer, but not close enough for Perfetti. And you get the feeling this Porsche is in cleaner air, in clear air, quicker than the McLaren. But the longer he keeps behind and is balked by the Hiroshi Hamaguchi car, the more advantage the 72 machine is getting.
6 seconds down the road now.
Okay.
And in fact, you can see the car there just disappearing into Pouhon as the guys come through Speaker's Corner. Still behind this trio, by the way. Adrian Delena has not managed to... Oh, off! It's off wide into Pouhon for Hamaguchi. Perfetti takes the advantage immediately and goes through. And there's now under immediate pressure, immediate pressure from the Aston Martin behind.
So Porsche through. Now we can see the true pace of Egidio Perfetti. Don't get me wrong, Hiroshi Hamaguchi was putting up a stout defence there and perfectly legitimately sticking the elbows out where necessary and able to hold on to second place until that very slight error at Pouhon. And now a chance to gather his thoughts before he gets more pressure, this time from the Auto Club Excelsior car.
Watch that again. That's Hamaguchi just missing his turning point as well. I wonder if there's something down there, because behind the McLaren the Aston Martin had a major moment as well. So is there something on the track there, whether or not it's just some muck that's been...
Could be, although it's just a case of when you get out on the marbles, it's a real job then to get it back again. Let's get an update from Charlie George, who is in the pit lane for us.
Yeah, I'm down here at the TF Sport Garage with Ewan Hankey. Ewan, Sally's out there at the moment running P5. Obviously, championship battle is forefront in your mind at the moment. What does he need to do? What have you told him he needs to do?
He just needs to finish. We just need to get points. We don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, the Ferrari's super fast. Has been the whole year so far. So just trying to keep the gap as close to the Porsche as possible. Damage limitation. I'm not sure our car's particularly suited around here at the moment. So we just got to try to make the best of a bad situation.
And has Sally got much experience around Spa? Is he enjoying it?
Yeah. He's had a couple of races here. So yeah, he's got no excuse apart from that. It's just trying to do the best that he can do.
And I'm sure you're looking forward to getting out there.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing what I can do, I guess.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Didn't see how that started, but that was the 90 car off the track and rejoining just in front of the TF Sport car. Sally Yolok now under extreme pressure from Adrian Delena. Track limits all over the place into Rouge from the into Radion rather from the Aston Martin, out of Radion from the Ferrari. But you can see the yellow Aston Martin has lost some ground to Hamaguchi, and that happened at Les Combes. We didn't see him going in. I did see him coming out. He was off the track, driver's left, rejoining in front of this battle. It seems to be not have the grip he should have at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, so that Aston struggling for a bit of traction here and there. The one behind is okay. It's a little bit wide there as well. It just doesn't quite have the pace, though, of, you could say, the Auto Club Excelsior machine. And, of course, the Excelsior crew are from Belgium. This is their backyard, in a sense. They know all the little shortcuts and the tricks to get around this circuit quickly and how to set up a car in the most perfect way. Down into the bus stop chicane goes Alexei Basov with already half an hour under his belt. Only needs to do 55 minutes, remember. Depending on what SMP Racing decide to do, they may run it to 55 minutes on the button, or in fact decide to slice the race exactly in half and give an hour to Basov and an hour to Scheitel. They could afford to do it like that because now...
Fastest lap of the race, though, has just gone to Egidio Perfetti. It's a 2:22.283. He takes half a second out of Basov, down to 6.7 seconds now. And all of a sudden, it's all about Sally Yolok getting onto terms with the other Aston Martin. This is a battle for 4th position. 3 cars in it, the 90 and 34 Aston Martins, and the number 14 Ferrari 458 of, no doubt, extremely frustrated Adrian Delena.
There's confirmation of Egidio Perfetti's fastest lap of the race at 2:22.2. So, yeah, just a mere 6.5 seconds now to try and find on Alexei Basov, who you sense has got a bit more to give.
That takes another half a second, though, out of the Ferrari ahead in the first sector that time around. Now, are we going to see a response from the Russian driver? We have before, but we've equally well seen the pace fall out of that car as you get deeper into the race at a couple of occasions. They've had the results, but it's not been a walkover, not by any means.
Through Bruxelles goes this three-way fight for 4th position. Schmetz ahead of Yolok, ahead of Delena. And this is costing the crew that run the Ferrari.
Up the inside, Sally Yolok takes the place. And it looks to me like Delena's going to do the same on the exit here. He does.
So no longer is it costing them quite as much time. Yeah, it's a fair point you make about this Aston, though, not behaving as well as, no doubt, Auto Club Excelsior expected. This is more than just running off the racing line and losing grip in that fashion on the marbles and on the dust. Doesn't look too happy, that car, coming out of Piff Paff. And Sally Yolok, almost with the tail end snapping out there at Campus Corner, has disappeared now, and he's taking Adrian Delena with him. But yeah, the AF Corsa crew had hoped that yellow Ferrari would have wriggled free of the number 90 Aston Martin a little sooner than it managed. This is costing them because, of course, they're putting their quicker driver in for the opening stint, and if Adrian Delena spends half of his stint caught up behind slower cars, that kind of defies the point of it.
That car's in trouble. The number 90 car's definitely in trouble. It's fallen now behind Cedric Mazard. Unless it's simply the rhythm has gone, it looks to me there's a problem with grip with that car for starters.
You're right, and this is way too early to be doing a driver change. Each driver, remember, has to do a minimum of 55 minutes, but well spotted from Mr. Goodwin to my right to say that that car does not look too happy. Is that blipping of the gearbox, but potentially as well? Just wonder whether maybe it's slipping out of gear or staying in a gear.
Oh, no, well that's a thought. But meantime, unbottled. Here come now the 4th and 5th position cars. As the Aston Martin crew take a look under the rear.
Yeah. Wire attached, make sure that the car is earthed correctly. And they're looking at the rear, clearly. A lot of smoke in the cockpit there.
Isn't there?
And
I think
the driver, Michael Schmetz.
The day is done for that car.
I think you're quite right there. Yeah, Schmetz struggling to unplug the various components, including the radio, which means he has contact with the team back on the pit wall. He can talk to them face to face now, but they may not have an answer for him as to why that car is so far off in pace. A real squirm there from Sally Yoluk's Aston Martin out of turn 9 and down towards Pouin, which gained Adrian Delina a fair bit of ground. So Delina under the rear wing here of Sally Yoluk. They're heading for Fagnes. It's the sequence of corners, a fast right and left flick. But, well, this is familiar surroundings now for Adrian Delina. He's got caught up behind an Aston Martin for a fair old portion of his stint. He's in exactly the same situation now, despite Sally Yoluk able to post quicker times than Michael Schmetz. It's not still quite as quick as that yellow Ferrari.
Oh, and 24 minutes remain. Lots of racing still to go. So, unhappy looking Belgian Aston Martin driver. Here comes Alexei Basov to start his lap 15. Virgilio Perfetti, by the way, has been nibbling away at this gap.
Yeah.
Again does it there. It's 5.7 seconds now. So he's not given this one up at all. It's taken, what's that, 1.2 seconds out of the advantage of the 488. Sure, Alexei Basov for a while thought, okay, this is easy. We pull another few tenths, but it's not proven to be the case since the Porsche got by the McLaren. Now 5 seconds back, 10 seconds off the lead for Hiroshi Hamaguchi.
The McLaren's still running, by the way. 3rd position for the Triple F Racing 650S, and it's nose to tail between Yoluk and Adrian Delina still for 4th and 5th positions. Little break once more to Charlie George, who was in the pit lane.
Yeah, I'm down here with Michael Schmetz. Michael, the car looked so strong in qualifying. Obviously, there's a problem. What is it?
Yeah, I think the clutch is broken. We have no power on wheels, so prefer to stop. No power on wheels.
That's really disappointing. And will we be seeing you out in the GT3 Cup again?
Yeah, we were at home, so yes, it's disappointing. So I think we can probably drive next year, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So good news that we will hopefully gain an Aston Martin, but clearly very tricky to describe that as good news to Michael Schmetz in his current mood, because that car was looking truly competitive this weekend. What a real shame to have a clutch issue during the race, but that's the nature of endurance racing, I suppose. You test the driver to the limit, you test the machinery to the limit as well.
And a very unusual fault to actually have in this day and age in a GT3 car. So whether or not that car was carrying some kind of undiagnosed fault into the weekend, we'll never know now, I suppose. But meantime, there's a battle for 7th. Cedric Mazard, Mads Rasmussen, a pair of Ferrari 458s, the 8 from the 71. That's nose to tail. It's the same still with Sally Yoluk and guess who, Adrian Delina. Tenths between them.
Yes, the number 8 car, by the way, Scuderia Viorba Corsa entered car, and it's racing the 71 AF Corsa entered machine. This is another AF Corsa Ferrari, the 14, and as you say, Adrian Delina getting a touch frustrated now with Aston Martin rear wings.
Response now from Alexei Basov. He puts a lap in the low 222s. That again draws the gap out to 6.5 seconds. He nibbles the best part of a second out on the Porsche this time around.
Perfetti straight lining that route out of La Source, down the hill, past the packed out grandstands. Still a goodly portion of fans in there enjoying motor racing into the evening. We're now at nearly 6:10 with another hour and 20 to go. Some great Saturday night entertainment, and that steep climb up Eau Rouge and over the top at Radion. So many people have no doubt told you and told me this weekend how the camera flattens out that part of the circuit. You need to walk it to truly just twig how steep it is. Alongside Adrian Delina got then with Sally Yolok, but still no opportunity to overtake. Front wheels level with rear, not quite at Les Combes. And still Sally Yolok sticks those elbows out and keeps behind him the bright yellow Ferrari, although Yolok a bit too deep into Bruxelles. This could be Adrian Delina's opportunity here. The next corner's a left-hander though, so that will favour the Turkish driver, and he stays in front.
And actually coming down the Kemmel Straight into Les Combes, the ideal line from Sally Yolok. Basically almost down the middle of the road, lets the Ferrari driver look up the inside, drive around the outside. Sally just took the shortest point to the corner and kept his line. Did not deviate from that line one iota.
That is a position change though, with Mads Rasmussen finally getting past Cedric Mazar. These cars setting similar paces though, so just wonder whether the number 8 car will have an opportunity to get that spot back again. Mads Rasmussen, a bronze driver, Cedric Mazar, a bronze driver.
These two, by the way, about a minute back from the leader.
Mazar due to hand over to Stevie S, and the 71 car. Will it still be Felipe Barreros this weekend? I know he's been in some hot water with, I think he was late to the circuit yesterday.
I think he got fined.
And he did get fined,
yes.
You're right. But we hope that Felipe Barreros will be part of this race once he takes over from Mads Rasmussen. Certainly down on my entry list as being the co-driver. An hour and 18 minutes to go.
Adrian Delana is going to wake up in the middle of the night screaming with visions of an Aston Martin badge, isn't he? Because it's been like this for him since the start of the race and since we got back to full speed racing. And of course this is particularly bad news for the team. He is the higher graded driver. Pierre-Marie Delana does not have the speed of Adrian in this car, but he'll be enjoying this, you know.
Yes, he will, but he wants he wants to be in 4th place and in front of Sally Yolok and closing in on Hiroshi Hamaguchi if he can be.
I think he'll be going home tonight and just doing the numbers about how close he can get to buying a 488 at this point, because it's pretty clear that actually it's the 458 just does not have an advantage over this Aston Martin in performance terms anywhere on this circuit. And Sally Yolok just needs to drive a controlled race here.
Down the hill to Bruxelles goes that battle, and Sally Yolok, well,
that's wide there though.
You talk about a controlled race, he may have gifted it to Adrian Delina, although Delina had a big old wiggle coming out of Bruxelles corner as well.
Now he's got the better line. Now
yes.
This is going to be interesting. The run down to Pouon, looks to the inside, looks to the outside, trying again to make the Turkish driver respond. He doesn't do that. And again, he takes the correct line through the corner, letting the chasing driver do all the work. But that came from 2 mistakes, didn't it? The initial mistake was Sally Yolok running wide. Adrian Delana probably went a little too deep into it, picked up the mucky stuff, and it just didn't give him the fire up the inside that he needed to the next corner.
Still really dusty at Fagnes corner though as well, and there's quite a bit of gravel and tyre pickup off that racing line. It's treacherous if you head off that very narrow strip, which is race car wide. Then there's very little grip, particularly offered at Bruxelles corner and Pouon. Now this is an opportunity, but of course the next corner's a right-hander once they've gone through Blanchimont. It'd be brave to try and overtake through there, or indeed go 2 abreast through Blanchimont. Up to the chicane that ends the lap, and Sally Yolok will be far too far in front here for Adrian Delina to get alongside. All smiles meanwhile down at, well, SMP Racing stroke AF Corsa, with Alexei Basov, their man, leading the way by nearly 8 seconds now. That was a glimpse of Sergei Slobin, was it not?
Sergei Slobin in the pink, that's right. So
Yeah.
I spotted Aaron Scott in the background there as well. He'll be in the 4-hour race tomorrow, the LMS, keeping an eye on the GT3 guys. Close-knit team, the family down at AF Corsa.
Down the dip and up the other side, a real roller coaster of a track, Spa-Francorchamps, and these guys loving every minute of it. Headlights ablaze now as well. We're starting to lose the light. It might be on the cusp of the gloaming as we reach 7:30 tonight and the end of this race, but still plenty of sunlight to illuminate this great circuit for the moment. So seesawing their way right, left and right again through Les Camps, over the crest, and from this point on it is downhill and rapidly through Bruxelles corner. Slightly tidier this time for Sally Yoluk, and no opportunity for that Ferrari to get alongside. Left-hand kink at Speaker's Corner, so-called because it's one of the only corners at this point of the circuit that can be seen from the commentary box back on the start line. And now through Pouhon. Again, keeping it within the racing line. Exclamations coming from Sergei there for whatever reason.
Matt Griffin as well in the background.
Is he
Yep.
protesting that maybe his car isn't getting the coverage?
Where's our car?
Yeah,
Says Sergei.
it's still out
about
there.
8 seconds up the road. But this is great entertainment.
Exactly.
Sergei says it's great entertainment for us to be winning by 8 seconds. We'll watch this for a little while, Sergei. We'll get back to the 72, I'm sure, any time now. But for now, it's the Adrian Delena Frustration Roadshow.
Coming to a town near you, if you live in Estoril, that is. Heading towards Blanchimont corner, and try as he might, he's got past one Aston, but this second one is proving much more difficult into the chicane. Oh, and plenty of curb that time taken by Adrian Delena. Now, can he get a slightly...
Oh, big drift out.
Drifting his way out of the final corner and over the line, and unfortunately all the time he bought himself through through the first bit of the chicane, he then lost through the left-hand flick.
There's Sergei. There you go, Sergei.
Yeah.
There's your car.
It'll keep. This will put a smile on Mr. Zlobin's face to see that Alexei Basov is still out front, with no doubt a big smile on his face as well. Although now concerning looks, for whatever reason.
Hey, don't show me, he says. Show the car. There you go.
Through Eau Rouge goes Sally Yoluk and Adrian Delena.
Delena launched through Radion there again onto the rear end of the Aston Martin, looking any inch he can grab back down the Kemmel Straight. Again, watch Yoluk, straight line. This time though,
yes,
he's done it.
Yes,
he's done it. It was that firing up through the through Radion.
Ah, right. Okay, so Sergei also, of course, supporting the AF Corsa yellow Ferrari, so he's not too bothered about Basov. What he's keen about is Adrian Delena finally breaking this stranglehold that Sally Yoluk has had on fourth position for many, many laps now. And yes, he was trying to think alternatively, I think, outside of the box. Right, I can't get past him there. I've tried that and that hasn't worked. What about if I get a good run through Radion and find an inside line at the end of the Kemmel Straight? And there you go, all becomes clear. But the stars had to align for that to work. And finally, he's into fourth position, Adrian Delena. So what's the gap going to be? Something like 14 seconds back to, or up the road to Hiroshi Hamaguchi in the Triple F Racing McLaren.
But the clock has been ticking down, of course, and that means we've been eating up the time for Adrian Delena in that car. Hamaguchi, meanwhile, is having a pretty lonely race here. It's about 8.2 seconds, the lead gap between Basov and Perfetti in this car. There's Hamaguchi coming through Blanchimont behind. He's a further 7.5 seconds back from Perfetti. Then, as Johnny says, it's about 12 seconds back to Adrian Delena's bright yellow Ferrari. They are your top four, with Sally Yoluk tucking in behind, just keeping Inspector Scheitart suits up. Sally Yoluk tucking in behind Delena, sticking it out now until the end of his stint. Hand over the car to Johan Hanke. Victor Scheitart fairly soon aboard this one, the 72 car. It'll be a lead handed over by Alexei Basov. They'll be pleased with that. Here comes Perfetti. Klaus Bachler due aboard the number 88 car. then Hamaguchi. So about the length of the Kemmel Straight between them. Adrian Queeve Hobbs, the talent due to get aboard the 55 McLaren.
Adrian Delina now having wriggled free of Sally Yollet, puts the car's best time in for the race so far, and he's got a few more opportunities to gather up some of that real estate to Hiroshi Hamaguchi. But as you say, with now only, well, 5.5 minutes to go before we reach the 55-minute mark, and that is the point where you can start to change drivers. There's effectively a 10-minute pit window exactly halfway through this race. And with most drivers, or most teams, electing to put their non-pro in first of all, I reckon they're going to be putting their gold or silver driver in with about an hour and 2 or 3 minutes still to go in the race. SMP tend to split things about 50-50, although, as you said, Victor Scheitar already putting the fireproof balaclava on and the hands device as well. He'll be ready to go now, because that car will be due in potentially in about 5 minutes' time. Replay of Alexei Basov on the limit, using plenty of curb there. I think part of him would like somebody to race with at this stage, but also just racing a brand new Ferrari 488 at top speed, breakneck speed around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit is entertaining enough, I guess, at times. And he's already pulled off potentially the overtake of the meeting around the outside of Hiroshi Hamaguchi through Piv Path.
Going to offer a bit of a theory on the Sally Yullock overtake by Adrian Delena. We saw Delena really aggressively up through Eau Rouge and Radion. That came just after Sally Yullock got a warning flag for track limits. And it was a warning flag for track limits at Radion. Now, I'm wondering whether that just... Well, certainly Delena will have seen that. He will have known that that would have given him food for thought that time through, and I wonder whether that's when he chose to pounce. He took not a liberty, but he took the chances he had to at a point where critically Sally Yollock had been warned he shouldn't. That might have made the difference. 68 minutes remain, and this is Ivor Dunbar running in 9th position, about to be lapped by the leader. Ivor will hand over to newly retired professional racing driver Johnny Molan. What does that mean? It means that Johnny will no longer be seeking employ in a professional context in international motorsport. He will continue through his consultancy to support the likes of Ivor Dunbar and potentially others moving forward. Long and very successful career, Johnny Molan.
2 488s together on track then, one putting a lap on the other, and still conversations being had at Amato Ferrari's team. One car sadly no longer in the race, that of Thomas Fleur and Francesco Castellacci. We heard from Francesco a little earlier on, speaking to Charlie George. One of their cars, this one in effect, although it's an SMP Racing entered machine, it's kind of run by AF Corsa. It leads the race, and of course we've seen that moment with Adrian Delena finally getting by Sally Yollock. Egidio Perfetti, though, she's gone through sector 1 quicker than anybody else has managed so far.
So it's under 8 seconds the gap, but just by a tenth or two, not making massive inroads at any point now into the advantage of the 72 car. That's Ivor Dunbar lapped in the number 25 car, FF Corsa, run from their workshops at Silverstone Circuit.
Yes, Basov on the whole is quicker than Perfetti and Hiroshi Hamaguchi. As you say, there are times when some of that time is gained back again, but not at as consistent rate as would be required to close that 7.5 second gap. There's a race leader then, out of Radion, crossing the blend line in that direction. You are allowed to do. We're not actually using that part of the pit lane for these cars anyway. So we will, I expect the cars, once they come to their pit stops, to peel off right at the chicane that ends the lap.
Perfetti trying to warn Ivor Dunbar that he's on his way and requires absolutely no delay whatsoever. Thank you, Ivor. It's a good theory. Let's see how Ivor deals with this one. It's another part of the skill set Sticks over to the left-hand side, sees the blue flag, obeys the blue flag, pulls out, and that's another of the things you're here to learn.
Yes. Yeah, agreed. Keeping an eye on the mirrors and making sure that you can go at your own pace, but don't disrupt other people's race if that's what you're going to do.
Perfetti, by the way, the fastest first sector of the race through that time, took another half a second out of Alexei Basov. The gap is now under 7 seconds. So he's making inroads. We saw this last time out, you know, towards the end of the first stint for the SMP car, is that all of a sudden the pace just fell out of it. And is it Alexei Basov just feeling a little bit of fatigue? Is the life going out of those tyres? Well, we'll see. 65 minutes remain.
Of course, we've got, well, I presume it's Klaus Beckler, is it? Rather
it's
than...
Klaus Beckler. It should be Klaus Beckler. I saw Klaus Beckler in the garage, so I'm guessing he's in the car.
Fine. I have a B Beckler on my list, which is a mixture of Ben Barker and Klaus Beckler, I think.
That's clever.
Which confused me for him. I thought, right, has Klaus got a brother? Anyway, so Klaus Beckler we expect to be in the Porsche. Can he be quicker than Victor Scheitar over stint 2? Because this could get very interesting. Yes, these cars are going to pit on the first bit of the pit lane rather than further around in the support paddock. And the 88 Porsche is the first to blink. Yes, it is. So from second position, that car is in. And I said 55 minutes is the key. Well, they're just inside of that now. Or just outside of it, if you like. They've run just over 55 minutes, leaving an hour and 2 or 3 minutes for Klaus Beckler.
I can certainly tell you that's definitely not Ben Barker, because he's about a foot shorter than Ben Barker.
Yes.
So
and you've seen that Klaus is here this weekend, so it's
absolutely
got to be him. Meanwhile, just behind in that shot, you've got the Aston Martin that stopped earlier on and sadly is out of the race with clutch-related problems. Ivor Dunbar in the number 25 FF Corsa Ferrari has stopped as well, the dark blue car to hand over to Johnny Molan, who we just were talking about.
Johnny Molan will have part of the bath chair taken off the picnic rug, put down his jar of cocoa as a newly retired professional racing driver, and will be getting back aboard his turbocharged Ferrari.
Familiar surroundings.
Absolutely. Like putting on a pair of old slippers, I'm sure, for Johnny.
This sport, I think, is not very easy to retire from. You just need to talk to Mark Patterson about that.
Yeah, he's retired more times than Tom Jones, you know.
Yeah,
this year.
Yeah. Farewell tour. Only you're going to be back for the next race and the one after that too.
I gather it's his wife. Basically, he goes home. She gets tired of him and says, "Why don't you go motor racing again? Go on, dear. Off you go.
Get rid of you for another weekend." Lights off, lights back on again. That suggests the engine has started for Klaus Beckler. He's just waiting for the clock to tick down. This is a minimum pit stop time, so no concern that the car hasn't moved yet. And pitting at the number 60 crew, interestingly, is was that the 71?
That is the 71 car.
Mads Rasmussen to hand over to Philippe Barreros. So Perfetti to hand over to Beckler. We'll see that car back in the race at the moment, in a second rather. Alexei Basov then still the race leader from Hiroshi Hamaguchi now. Adrian Delina up to third, Sally Yollet fourth, and here is the leader.
Stevie S will be taking over from Cedric Mazzard as well. Klaus Beckler does indeed join the race. Dunbar still shown as at the wheel of that car, but we've seen Johnny Molan getting aboard.
Knocks the post out of the way for the 51, but
that will be the 51 from GTS.
Yeah.
So out gets Basov, in gets Scheitar.
Basov has stopped at entirely the correct garage before you start thinking, oh, that's not his pit garage. Well, the guys have started working on the car anyway, so they were expecting some kind of Ferrari in. And Scheitar now being helped into the driver's seat, an insert required, and the 6-point harness will now be connected up.
For now at least, Hamaguchi goes through in the lead with the McLaren.
Splash of fuel there as the hose was released, but all of the staff, the personnel there are well protected in their Nomex overalls. A load of dust kicked up, then that will be in the in-lap, won't it, for Alexei Basov down at Campus Corner. And scrub tyres going on to the rear of that Ferrari. So used Michelins for the number 72 car, but they'll be good for a stint. And Victor Scheitar about to rejoin. We'll need to keep our eye though on Klaus Bachler, again kicking up a load of dust, but that time staying within the confines of the track limits. So the dust has really built up, particularly at Fagnes corner and then down at Campos as well. They're trying to restart, fires into life, and the mechanic just in front of the car, counting down the last few seconds for Victor Scheitar, and he's back up and running. The crew seem very, very happy with that stop, and through it goes. Now here is Bachler
coming through to turn 18 now.
Remember, the gap was 6.5 seconds prior to the stops, so Bachler really hammering on through the chicane here in this brand new 991 spec Porsche 911 in GT3 configuration, and the Ferrari already back out again. So Victor Scheitar down the hill towards Eau Rouge. Meanwhile, Bachler will be negotiating La Source, and we have reached half distance in the race. 59 minutes 50 seconds to go, and that's how long Klaus Bachler has, and everybody else in the race have, to try and reel in Victor Scheitar.
I think kind of task that someone like Klaus Bachler really relishes. It's attack a gap. Porsche specialist, you can see there, turning in. In comes Hamaguchi from the lead. This will be Adrian Crave-Hobbs to take over this car. As we saw the Porsche blasting through Raidillon, we could see the Ferrari turning into Les Combes at the end of the Kemmel Straight.
Yeah, so the whole of the Kemmel Straight as a lead, which is a tidy advantage heading into the second hour of a 2-hour race. Stepping out, Hiroshi Hamaguchi.
Slight problem with the belts there, I thought, for Hiroshi. In comes, meanwhile, Sally Yoluk. And Sally pits from second position. 14 seconds back, by the way, from Delana by the time he came in. So he dropped right back there and has overshot his pits as well.
Yep, he has. So that's cost the team a little bit of time. The fuel goes in, although the clock will have started, of course, when the car came to a halt. So they'll need to do the rest of the stop swiftly, just to make sure that they get out as close to the minimum reference time as possible. Ewan Hankey is in and sets to work on making sure he's bolted in safely.
The gap, by the way, between the two lead cars is 10 seconds, 10.3 seconds through the first timed sector with both of them running, but that's come right down, and as of course it will do, it's 6.7 seconds, a real gap. So actually it's more or less the same. Now we see the relative quality of Klaus Bachler against Victor Scheitar.
Team fumbling around a little bit down at Triple F. I hope that wasn't a wheel gun issue. Making sure that it was going the right direction. Front left wheel on the 35 car is on. No troubles. It's a very dusty looking rear left with brand new Michelin by the looks of things going on that Aston Martin. So Ewan Hankey now at the wheel. Again, they're waiting for the clock to head to zero. So the last few seconds ticking by, he'll get the signal to start the engine and then be sent back into the race. Oh, and he stalled it. Ewan Hankey stalls the car. He got it fired back into life very quickly, but that was at least 2 seconds cost delay. And a Ferrari in the distance starting to work its way back into the race as well. So that may well have been the... Yes, it was a yellow car, wasn't it?
Pierre-Marie Delana, so rejoins timed in 4th position.
Yeah, so replacing Adrian Delana, Pierre-Marie.
And a driver out on track that I've not got on any entry list that I've got here, and that's in the number 26 car, Santamato. Not Sahil Ayari.
No, that was changed, I think, with his co-driver. Santamato was involved in free practice earlier on in the weekend with Eric Cayrol. Yes, they've been shuffling their driver lineup a little bit this weekend, and Sahil Ayari was on the initial entry list. You're quite right.
Victor Scheitar is losing time here, and he's losing time pretty radically to Klaus Bachler. The gap is under 5 seconds now.
This is the start of the race, by the way, an hour and 5 minutes ago, and unbelievably everyone got through La Source for the first time, and indeed Eau Rouge and Radion. What we didn't quite manage was a clean run then through the second lap. This was a good move from Sally Yollett, coming from a long way back, and there was the clash, sadly, between the Lamborghini Huracan of Barwell Motorsport and the number 51 AF Corsa Ferrari of Thomas Fleur. Both cars eliminated on the spot, and the right-hand side of the Lamborghini Huracan, thankfully the passenger side, heavily stoved in there. We would have been concerned about Mark Poole had he been sat on that side of the car, but he was able to limp the car a bit further down the hill before he realised this was a lost cause. Sadly, the car too badly damaged. Been several incidents where cars have run slightly offline and then not been able to get that moment back again, such as the amount of dust around the Spa circuit this weekend. Tyre pickup and dust and dirt here and there. Let's hand down to Charlie George, though, with a quick word from Egidio Perfetti.
Yeah, I'm down here at Mentos Racing with Egidio. A great opening stint from you there. Klaus is in the car at the moment. Has he got what it takes to catch that Ferrari?
I definitely hope so, and I think so. I think if we have a chance, this is it, and we are all looking forward to it. We'll see. I think the first sector I saw was second faster, but obviously we pitted before the Ferrari. So we'll have to see once they got their tires stabilized what's the pace.
And you certainly look like you enjoyed your stint around Spa.
Yeah, quite exciting. I think after the safety car it was a bit tricky to get the grip in the front tires, but I truly enjoyed it. I think it's not every day that you get to overtake on the inside over there, so no, it was fun. And Eau Rouge is incredible.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you so much. See you later.
Well, while that interview's been going on, Johnny, there's extraordinary progress being made by Klaus Bachler. He's just
his teammate, yeah.
Absolutely fastest lap of the race last time around, a 2:21.934, exactly to the thousandth, 2 seconds faster on the last lap than the leader. Quicker again in Sector 1. The gap is now down to 3 seconds.
I did wonder whether Victor Scheitar might be able to show quite as much pace as Klaus Bachler can offer. Truly revved up ahead of this stint. We have seen Ben Barker at the wheel of that Porsche earlier on in the season, but it's been Klaus for the main part. He was lined up, you remember, at Imola to take charge of that car and didn't quite get to his stint, but for a mistake from Perfetti through the first sequence of corners on that opening lap. But this partnership is really maturing nicely now between Perfetti and Bachler, and this time around, well, Adrian Quaife-Hobbs seemingly going quicker than the two cars up ahead as well, because he's just picked out the best Sector 2 time of anybody.
Well, significantly this time, no advantage whatsoever taken the middle sector by the number 72 over the Porsche. That's where the Ferrari has been really pulling out an advantage in the tight and tricky part of the circuit. Does pull out a 10th, but it's 3.1 seconds is the advantage now for Victor Scheitar. Trying to reel my memory back to the last race when we saw a similar kind of pattern. I think it takes a little wee while for that Ferrari 488 to switch on the tyres.
Yep. Yeah, that might be a good shout, and that's certainly what Egidio was suggesting.
Meantime, fastest lap of the race does go indeed to, it's not Hiroshi Hamaguchi, as the timing screen's telling us, it is Adrian Quaife-Hobbs. It's a 2:21.072, takes a second out of the second place car ahead and a second and a half out of the leader. So the gap first to third now is 15.0 seconds.
Into Les Combes, the sun setting in the distance there. Klaus Bachler, second position. And using plenty of curb on the exit of that corner, down the hill into Bruxelles, and the track continues to drop away from the Austrian. And the number 25 pit stop is now under investigation, you can see. And
the number 8 is about to pop up with the same message. Okay. So the pit stop that puts Johnny Molam into the 25 car and the pit stop that puts Stevie S into the number 8 are both being looked at.
And car 72, the race leader, being told by race control that that car must respect the track limits at Radion corner, which is easy to run wide out of, but clearly it's been pinged by the observers on a couple of occasions now. Also, Adrian Quaife-Hobbs being warned of track limits at the end of the lap, turn 19, which is the second portion, second part of the chicane. Nearly down to just 50 minutes of this race to go. 3.2 seconds the gap then between race leader Victor Scheitar and Klaus Bechler, but we're getting into that portion now where these tyres will start to come into their own potentially for that Ferrari 488. The Michelin tyres that were put onto the Ferrari were scrubbed, I think, but maybe just takes a little while for them to get into their operating temperature.
This pair getting closer and closer, 3.2 seconds through the last sector, 3.1 now, but Quaife Hobbs behind is putting in some storming sector times. Purple sectors in both the first two sectors, though Ewan Hankey just edges that time. It's a 2:20.568 now from Adrian Quaife Hobbs. The gap under 14 seconds, the leader, 10 seconds now to the second place Klaus Bechler.
Bottoming out at the lower part of Eau Rouge, and then up over the top at Radion Corner, through the kink onto the Kemmel Straight. And the headlights of these cars really penetrating not darkness but evening light here at Spa-Francorchamps. We are now at 20 to 7 local time.
Traffic coming for the leader. It's the 71 car, I think, that's ahead on the road here. It is. So this could be critical.
At Bruxelles, and yes, a tricky place to encounter traffic this, because from this point down to kind of Campus Corner and Curve Paul Frere tends to be one racing line, although try telling that to Alexei Basov, who overtakes people around the outside of Fagnes Corner. A little bit of concern on the Giuliano Perfetti's face, perhaps not.
A bit of chatter on the radio as well.
I just wondered whether the team may have received a warning message from race control. Klaus Bechler with the lights now flashing to warn that his Porsche is a touch quicker than the Philippe Barreros driven Ferrari.
And did that cost any time for the 72 coming by the 71? We'll see with the sector times through sector 2 in a moment or two.
Bechler again seesawing at the wheel at Campus Corner, getting his Porsche through that right-hander as quickly as he dares. Curve Paul Frere and now Blanchimont. Still over 3/4 of an hour of the race to go for the 88 Porsche in second, the 72 Ferrari that leads the race, heading up to the bus stop to complete at lap 28 now.
Loses a little bit of time in the middle sector, still hasn't passed the 71, goes up the inside now through the bus stop. Now he's got clear air, but behind, Adrian Quaife Hobbs continues to hammer the sector times. Quickest of all by a full second quicker than the second place Porsche in the middle sector. It's 3.3 seconds at the end of the lap is the gap for the leaders. It is 11.7 from the leader, with another fastest lap of the race from Quaife Hobbs at 2:20.313. That is fully 2 seconds quicker than the two cars ahead, albeit that they had to pass a car on that lap.
Into Eau Rouge, Porsche from McLaren rather, and then the Aston Martin of Ewan Hankey, but it's a Ferrari 488 that leads the race. Ferrari number 71 having just been lapped, so that's not in contention. There is Adrian Quaife Hobbs though, who is managing to set fastest lap followed by fastest lap. It's a 2:20.313 now set by the Brit on lap 28, working his way out of Les Comps and past the campsites there in the distance into the braking area at Bruxelles Corner, managing to heave the car from driver's left to driver's right to find the apex. And again, careful not to use too much of the runoff on the exit of turn number 9. Back with the race leader, and Victor Scheitar is at he's at Fagnes Corner rather.
Gap under 3 seconds through the last sector. Another good first sector from Klaus Bechler. Better one, much better one from Quaife Hobbs. Takes a further 6/10 out of Bechler, a second out of Scheitar. Gap under 11 seconds now.
Caught a glimpse there of Bechler, and is this it's just some dust being kicked up by Scheitar, so keeping the car on the curb for arguably a bit too long there, and a couple of the right hand wheels clipping the grass and what is very dry turf underneath that, so that threw up a great cloud of dust into the face of Klaus Bachler behind. Adrian Quaife-Hobbs charging his way into the chicane, but we'll get an update from Charlie in the pit lane.
Yeah, I'm here with Rio Hamaguchi. Rio, Adrian Quaife-Hobbs is out in the car at the moment. He's having a storming session, isn't he?
Yes, he is. For me, it was my first ever race in Spa, so I didn't really have a good stint, but it's just an experience, and I hope Adrian can catch those two on the top.
So your first time at Spa, tell us about that. I mean, that must be an incredible experience.
It is. This is amazing. I mean, Eau Rouge to Blanchemont and all that. This is something I have dreamed of, and I'm just lucky to be in this truck with GT3 cars.
Absolutely, and of course, a podium place, if possible, would be a great result after a disappointing time last time out.
I think so. I think podium is quite there, but I hope Adrian can get it to the P1.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
And that right there, Johnny, is what this is all about. That is Hiroshi Hamaguchi, who, by the way, his English is better than mine.
Yeah.
Just living the dream, loving this car, loving this track, loving this series. They've not had the best of luck, but still he comes back, hammers away at this, and he wants to win. At the moment, I wouldn't put money against it, because Adrian Quaife-Hobbs is hammering around. Another second taken out of Victor Scheitar in the first sector of that lap. Half a second on the last lap as a total, 10.4 seconds now back from the leader, and we're going to have to start talking pretty soon about the gap to second place, because he's closing in. It's about 7.2 seconds back at the moment from Klaus Bachler.
And whereas the gap from first to second has kind of stabilised now that this Ferrari has got its tyres up to temperature into the operating window, what isn't happening is the gap between second and third starting to stabilise, because Adrian Quaife-Hobbs is in a position where he can continue to up the pace by small margins, but he's managed, 3 or 4 different new fastest laps during his stint, and
another
is
2
on
purple
course
sectors.
for another one.
Another 2 purple sectors, and
Yeah.
not just by a little bit. He's, forgetting for a moment that Johnny Molam's just put by a smidge the fastest middle sector in. Well done, Johnny. That was 2 purple sectors for a moment from Quaife-Hobbs, and taking a full second out of Klaus Bachler in the middle sector, and a half a second in the first sector. So 1.5 seconds out of a car that is charging in second place and closing in every corner at the moment on this battle. It is now a 3-car battle for the win, no doubt. It's 43 minutes to go.
2:20.234, the new fastest lap of the race, set by this car and this driver, Adrian Quaife-Hobbs. Out of La Source then goes the Triple F Racing by ACM McLaren 650S. And Hiroshi Hamaguchi has his eyes set on a race win. Well, there's a Porsche from Mentos Racing and an SMP Racing Ferrari that stand in their way of achieving their first victory of the year. Down the Kemmel Straight goes Quaife-Hobbs. Here at the right-hander of Lecombe is the number 72 Ferrari, and there's the Porsche, the meat in the sandwich. Klaus Bachler still at the wheel of that, sun in his eyes as he headed down into the braking area for Bruxelles, and that's something to bear in mind. The low sun will start to become a problem on certain parts of this Spa circuit.
9 seconds is the gap first to third now, and the pattern generally at the moment is Victor Scheitar loses something to Klaus Bachler and then a lot to Adrian Quaife-Hobbs in the first sector. It evens out between the first 2 in the second sector, but Quaife-Hobbs is taking further time out of both there, and then it's pretty even Stevens through the third sector for all 3. So this is developing for the last 40 minutes or so into really quite 200-mile-an-hour chess match. It's going to be fun. Here we go, next bit of traffic. This is Pierre-Marie Delena.
So a newer Ferrari up against the classic 458 iteration of the GT3 car.
A little bit of time lost there for the 72. Let's keep an eye on what happens with the second place car.
Bear in mind they're both AF Corsa cars though, and Sergei Slobin maybe not too happy with a slight delay there for the race leader. Can he see the writing on the wall here? Certainly there's some concern over whether this car, the 72, can stay out front of Klaus Bachler in the white Porsche, turning right and now left at the chicane, and just out of this shot, Adrian Quaife-Hobbs in the all-black, very smartly liveried McLaren, which pops into sight there.
So a little bit of time lost to the leader with passing Delena. That's a second lost, in fact. 2.7 seconds is the gap, but still making further inroads. It's 8.1 seconds now, Quaif Hobbs in third. That means he's 5.3 seconds back from Klaus Bachler, and still catching. 2:22.7 for the leader, 2:21.7, so exactly a second nibbled back by the Porsche. 2:21.1, so 1.6 seconds taken out the lead on that lap. Here they come. There's the first two. Here's the third place car now, about to go by the yellow Ferrari. Is there going to be a delay here? Is he actually going to take some advantage from the toe? I think is rather more the point.
May well be the case. Adrian Quaif Hobbs will not be asked twice to lap Pierre-Marie Delena. That will happen at Les Combes, and just peering over the horizon there, couldn't see the McLaren peeping over the top and running into Bruxelles. If it's not passed yet, then this will be quite a lot of time being lost. And he is through. There we go. Adrian Quaif Hobbs safely by the Pierre-Marie Delena driven Ferrari. 2.226 is the gap then from Scheitar back to Klaus Bachler.
So through the first sector, which has been heavily favouring the Porsche so far. It's the second sector though that tends to have the pendulum swinging back. Now, how well have these three cars done through here? We're at a critical phase, I think. 40 minutes to go. 64 seconds through the second sector for the leader. 0.6 of a second lost by Bachler there. That tends to be what tends to happen. Now Quaif Hobbs, 64.7. He's lost a little bit of time. 8.4 is the gap between the three.
Yeah, 2.9 separating first to second, 8.4 separating first to third, and 45 seconds further down the road, Ewan Hankey scoring points for TF Sport, remember. But as we stand, it'll be SMP Racing outperforming TF Sport by 3 positions.
2:21.5 for the leader, 2:21.8 for second place car, puts the lead gap at 3 seconds. It's a 2:21.7. First time I've seen Quaif Hobbs actually lose any time at all to the leader in quite a while. It's 8.4 seconds is the gap, and it's 5.4 seconds that Quaif Hobbs is going to find to get onto terms with Bachler.
Through Eau Rouge go the top 2 cars. 38 minutes on the clock now, and having dealt with that traffic, Victor Scheitar is into some clear air now where he can really get his head down, get into some kind of rhythm and try and forget about that ever-approaching Porsche in the rearview mirrors. Bachler finds a 1/10 of a second through that sector. What about Adrian Quaif Hobbs? 7.9 seconds the gap from first to third.
He finds 2/10 to Bachler, he finds 4/10 to Scheitar, but that's, as I say, that's where it favours the chasing cars here at the moment.
Seems to be able to gain a little bit of time here, but then lose it on the next lap. And this is the beauty of average lap times, I suppose, where you just, the yin and yang of it tempts you into saying, yes, definitely that McLaren is catching, and then the next lap tends to equal out again as the Porsche has a slightly better lap. 37 minutes on the clock. Last time around, a very good time from Victor Scheitar. Those tyres well and truly now within their operating window. Stevie S is also putting in some good times for that car. Doesn't look like this lap for him. Lap 32 is going to be quicker, but a 2:23.4 is very respectable for that car, the number 8 machine of Scuderia Villorba Corsa. Personal best through sector 1 for Victor Scheitar. Likewise for Ewan Hankey and for Santimato in the number 26 classic and modern racing car.
Ewan Hankey's problem, of course, is that the 3 ahead of him are going so very quickly, so there's actually a 37 second gap to Ewan Hankey. 34 car in 4th position, and let's keep an eye on this. All of a sudden, Quaif Hobbs dropping just a little bit, just a 10th here and there. That's not what we've seen. Now, has he had, at the moment, the best of those tyres? Or has he picked up a bit of dirt on one of those turns They're struggling to actually get them cleaned up.
3.5 seconds now is the gap between first and second, so losing 0.6 of a second. Klaus Bachler on that lap around, and not nearly a second for Adrian Quaife-Hobbs, as you say. So are the tyres falling off a cliff? Are they starting to stabilise, whereby Adrian Quaife-Hobbs can still push, but not to the extent that he was able to at the start of his stint? And this Ferrari seems to treat its Michelin tyres very well indeed. And once they get up to temperature, they seem to offer very consistent performance, which continues on and on and on. I'm sure that will nosedive eventually, but no doubt SMP Racing and AF Corsa have done the calculations, and that nosedive will happen after the end of the race, effectively. You know, it'll all behave itself during the stint for Victor Scheitar. That's the plan, anyway.
Just got a glimpse of Adrian Quaife-Hobbs trying to chase, but pretty wild through Speaker's Corner from the McLaren. But pulled back another half a second from Scheitar in the first sector. It's the second sector, though, where the damage appears to be done. And you're right, it's the consistency of this Ferrari that continues to frustrate the opposition. 64.1 seconds through the second sector for the Ferrari. Takes a half a second out of Bachler. In a moment or two, exactly the same amount out of Quaife-Hobbs. It's 9.1 seconds. First to third, it's 3.8 seconds. First to second, 34 minutes remain.
SMP Racing seem to have the right chassis and a wonderful driver lineup in the form of Scheitar and Basov, and they're going to take some stopping in this race, and indeed for the very first Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup. The Egidio Perfetti and Klaus Bachler combination, well, it's Perfetti really who's been scoring the points throughout the season, as we've said, has had different co-drivers, with Ben Barker joining him during the Paul Ricard weekend. So it's Perfetti for the 88 crew that will be scoring the most amount of points, and he came here behind 4 other drivers, the 2 from TF Sport and the 2 from SMP Racing. Plenty of track and a bit more being used by Adrian Quaife-Hobbs there at Eau Rouge corner, and over the top at Radion, pushing the track limits to their very edge.
And now it's about Quaife-Hobbs and Bachler, for the moment at least. It's about a 5-second gap. Quaife-Hobbs is consistently having the better of that at the moment. That's what I'll be concentrating on first. He'll be keeping him on the gap to the leader, I've no doubt about that. But now it's actually about trying to nibble out those quarter of a second here, 10th of a second there, half a second when he can grab it. And that's the gap that's coming down the quicker at the moment.
Through the left-handers at Pouhon corner, Hiroshi Hamaguchi can't tear his eyes away from the timing screen, just working out what Adrian Quaife-Hobbs needs to do. 8.5 seconds is the gap from Hiroshi's car, the Quaife-Hobbs driven McLaren 650S, and the race leader Victor Scheitar. This is lap 35 now. Johnny Molam continues to scythe his way up the order at a good speed, a 2:21.8 last time around for Johnny, which is way quicker than Felipe Barreros. So the 25 car is running in 7th position and closing in on Stevie S.
Yeah, 6th, not entirely out of his reach. It's a big ask. It's nearly 40 seconds the gap is going to make up, but he is doing that quite consistently. 2.5 here, a couple of seconds there.
Despite ES's best lap of the race last time around for that individual car, the number 8 machine, a 2:23.352 for the ES and Cedric Mezar combination. Top 3 over the line, 4.2 seconds now the gap, as the number 26 Classic and Modern Racing Ferrari gets another warning about not respecting the track limits at turn 4.
Quaife-Hobbs quicker of the 3 again that time, to a 21.2 against a 0.7 and a 0.9 for the first and second cars respectively. For his comfort zone, you know, he wants to be a second or 2 closer than that. There's just something about those gaps as they come down by that kind of margin that just adds something else. There you go, top three, all on the Kemmel Straight together.
Yep, that's what 8.8 seconds looks like from Shaitar all the way back to Adrian Quaife-Hobbs.
It's 4.2 seconds now, Backler to Quaife-Hobbs, and that comes courtesy of another blinding first sector from the 55 car. Seems to be the only one that can actually get under 40 seconds there. Takes 6/10 out of the leader, takes 4/10 out of Backler. So it's almost even Stevens, the gap between the three of them now. 4 seconds for the lead, 4 seconds to the third place from the second place car, 8 seconds the gap between the two. 3 rather.
This is kind of the scenario that we saw at Paul Ricard, where the cars battling for the lead of the race, the win, came out of their pit stop, from the pit stops at very different rates, it would seem. And if you'd extrapolated those rates through to the end of the race, then we would have seen place changes. But what we didn't take into account is how the tyres can stabilise on one car and maybe stabilise at a slightly different rate on, for example, the Porsche. Is this a place change or just no, it's a bit of lap race?
That's Ewan Hankey in 4th position. That gives you an idea of the gap now, because it's been a long while since the lead 3 came by through the number 71 car of Felipe Barreros. It's not really been, in terms of podium positions on pace at the moment, we're into the last quarter of the race, last half hour of the race, not been TF Sports race. Now this time through, that's the first time we've seen it for a little wee while, Quaife-Hobbs made inroads into both the cars ahead of him in the middle sector. So the lap times at the end of this lap are going to be interesting. It's a 2:21.991 for the leader, it's a 2:21.941 for Klaus Backler, and it's a 2:20.8, so another second taken out. So again, maybe he's just given the tyres a little bit of a chance to recover a little. He's good at his loins, and away he goes.
Yeah, 3.4 seconds the gap to Klaus Backler now. The teams will be keeping these drivers updated as to the gaps, but also a lot of the drivers don't want an awful lot of distraction around what is a difficult lap. 7 kilometres, 4.3 miles, and 20 turns in total. So a little buzz in the ear to say, yep, you're up this time. Half a second, in fact, found by Adrian Quaife-Hobbs through one sector there.
Gap for the leader now under 7 seconds. Gap for second place to third is 3 seconds now. He's found a second in the last couple of laps. Quaife-Hobbs, Backler is going to have to start thinking about his mirrors.
Klaus Backler, no slouch as we know, but has kept the gap to the race leader about the same, hovering around 4 seconds. Even though the pace of the Porsche hasn't changed dramatically, Adrian Quaife-Hobbs is able to push a bit harder in that McLaren. As you say, just a couple of laps where he wasn't asking absolutely everything of the tyre, and now he can really push again.
He's went through that time, the first sector, in the absolute best first sector of the race, a 39.8. First man into it, the only man so far under 40 seconds. He's done that countless times. Took a further half a second in the first sector from Backler, and a further, what is that, 8/10 from the leader.
Cars are at campus, and Curve Paul Frere now being negotiated. Quite a bit of that yellow and red curbing taken by Adrian Quaife-Hobbs, but keeps 2 wheels the right side of the white line. Heading for Blanchimont, the fastest part of the circuit. Or one of the fastest. Kemmel Straight's pretty quick as well. Into the chicane, though, the race leader is already there. Careful not to clobber the very large sleeping policeman type curbs on the inside of turn 18 and 19. Over the line. 27 minutes to go now. 2:21.643, a great time from Klaus Backler. That's the car's best time. And also Adrian Quaife-Hobbs, a 2:21.655. These times are very, very close to one another.
Indeed, both second and third that time took a significant chunk, third of a second out of the lead. Under 4 seconds still the gap for the lead, and it's still 3.5 back to Adrian Quaife-Hobbs. So the gap between the top three, 7.4 seconds now, 26 minutes remaining. And it's not going to take very many laps with that kind of gain for this to get, well, even more interesting than it already is, and it's already pretty darn interesting.
Yep, the event at Ricard promised perhaps a little more than it in the end delivered, but this is the second wave, I suppose, of an attack from both Klaas Bachler and Adrian Quaife-Hobbs, and they could make it very, very real indeed at the head of the order.
Again, both closed in as they have been doing since the start of this second stint in Sector 1. Under 3.5 seconds now from Bachler to Scheitar. 3.2 to Quaife-Hobbs back in third position as Johnny Molan gets the naughty boy flag. Constant abuse of track limits at turns 4 and 19. That's Radion and the final turn.
And of course that's an accumulative affair for the car, so it might have been Ivor Dunbar who ticked off one or two of those warning flags earlier on. Normally you get a warning on the screen, then it'll be a flag, and then you're... Oh, it's specifically Molan. Okay.
It does say so.
Well, normally, though, if you incur a penalty, for example, your non-pro gets a warning flag. If the car then goes off the track limits during your stint for the pro driver,
you'll still pick it up.
Counts,
absolutely, 100%, because it's about the advantage you take as a team.
Yeah.
It's a team sport.
Yeah. And obviously the pros, if they're getting into a car which has already been warned during the opening stint, then it's almost like joining a football match from the substitutes bench with already a yellow card.
Absolutely.
And you have to approach the race accordingly and be extra cautious. At La Source, race leader. Getting pretty dark out there now. They'll need these headlights if they were to race till about 8 o'clock. Certainly we will have lost most of that light. It'll be a 7:30 finish here.
24 minutes remain now. The gap first to third now down to 7 seconds. A better lap that time than either of the cars ahead by 3 or 4 tenths by the third placed Adrian Quaife-Hobbs. He'll appear remarkably quickly now. There you are. That's the lead three. 3.9 seconds is the lead gap. 3.4 after this, after Sector 1, where we know it falls into the laps of the chasing cars. It's 6.6 seconds to the third place car. And it's 3.1 Bachler to Quaife-Hobbs. Dealing in tenths, and I think we're going to be until the flag here, Johnny.
Yes, this is almost a hypnotic end to the race. You can't take your eyes off the screen. At the moment, there's not huge amounts changing, but you just get the sense that these three cars could be right with each other in the final few laps. Will we have enough of the race still to go by the point where the overtaking needs to happen, I wonder?
Meantime, Johnny Molan's pursuit of Steve Hies, it got it down to 33 seconds. It's going to be over because Johnny is going to get a drive-through penalty. The car was refueled, I'm afraid, with the engine still running, and that is a no-no.
Yeah. So drive-through, and regardless of the track limits issue, that's entirely unrelated. Also getting word now that the number 8 car...
Oh, Steve, yes, so maybe it's not all over.
...used the ELMS air hose system rather than its own, presumably. The air hose system, to jack the car up, that would have been.
Yes, will have been.
Rather than the fueling rig. I remember one car was using the 60 fueling rig for Formula Racing in the ELMS. Presumably you are allowed to do that, but you're not allowed to use ELMS spec air guns or air systems to jack the car up on its internal jacks. 25, you can see flashing there, is a warning to car 25. That will be the drive-through being communicated to Johnny Molan. As the number 72 Ferrari turns right at La Source to start another lap. This will be lap 40 then for Victor Scheitar, leading by 3.5 seconds from Klaas Bachler. Adrian Quaife-Hobbs remaining in third position. Ewan Hankey we've not seen for a while, but rest assured he's still circulating in fourth.
And quickly. Yep.
30, well, it will be 39 laps done for Ewan in a moment or two, and Santa Marto in the number 26 car is in fifth still.
We're now in the realms, Johnny, of any minor error here could have a dramatic effect. So just running wide and losing a second could have a dramatic effect. It would just basically just give another big impetus there to the car or cars chasing, depending who it's going to be, if it happens. But these guys are fully on it. Glowing exhausts from the McLaren there.
And as darkness descends, this place just takes on a whole new complexion. The atmosphere is ramped up the extra level. Sadly, we won't be into full-on darkness, as you might get for a 24-hour race held here early on in the year. But the headlights are becoming a necessity.
Traffic again. It's I think it's Pierre-Marie Delena again. Has he been back down pit lane?
Pierre-Marie Delena has pitted just once.
So, but there's a yellow Ferrari ahead.
Okay,
Yeah,
there he is.
SMP Racing Cars managed to deal with that car. Well, that's a bit odd.
It wasn't that long ago when these leaders had to go by.
I can only think he's
Pierre-Marie
been off
Delena.
somewhere and rejoined, or
Quite possible. As we concentrate on the leading trio, and they're still finding time, unbelievably. Through Sector 1, Victor Scheitar has gone quicker than that car's managed so far, and a personal best through Sector 1 for Klaas Backler as well.
but both lost time. In the case of Klaas Backler, just a 10th to Quay Fobbs, but in the case of Scheitar, half a second.
Yep.
So the gap 1 to 3 is now under 6.5 seconds. And Quay Fobbs has got the gap to Klaas Backler under 3 seconds.
3.5 first to second. Under 3, as Graham says, second to third.
And all three in the 221s. It's been metronomic.
It has.
In a really good way.
Very few mistakes from any of these three drivers. And interesting to see how the balance of performance affects things, I suppose, and also how the tyre wear or the tyre performance is affected, whether these tyres, Michelin tyres, are strapped to a McLaren, a Porsche or a Ferrari 488. Already flashing the lights, Victor Scheitar, to make sure that the car up ahead that is about to be lapped.
I think that's Stevie S.
Stevie S in the 8 car, may well be. 2.959 seconds, the gap from the Porsche in second position and this McLaren 650S. And there is a mere Formula Ford race now between these cars and the checkered flag. So we're getting to the really important part of this 2-hour enduro around the full Grand Prix configuration of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, 7 kilometres. And there are the 3 cars contesting the podium.
Gap under 6 seconds now. First to third. That's what that looks like. 18.5 minutes.
40 laps up, by the way. Victor Scheitar circulating now in Sector 2 on his 41st run, rather. And out of Campos corner goes that machine, taking plenty of curb again, but not excessively. 18 minutes to go for the Russian crew, and run by AF Corsa. Ewan Hankey still there in 4th place. Then it's Santamato, the late entry for Classic and Modern Racing, replacing Saheli Yari. Stevie S still 6th, 7th place Johnny Mola, 8th position Philippe Barreros, and 9th position for Pierre-Marie Delena. And sadly, we started with 12 cars. 3 of those were lost relatively early on. Certainly the Thomas Fleur Mark Poole cars have not been seen since lap 2 after they clashed at the source.
On to lap 42, 2.8 seconds Klaas Backler needs to find to get alongside Victor Scheitar at least. It's a further 2 points. It's another 2.8 seconds. It's identical gaps, under 3 seconds, both of them, first to second, second to third. 5.6 seconds is the gap between all 3. And still, Quay Fobbs is nibbling time out of both. Traffic now for the leader. And we're at the part of the race here where this could make a big difference. If he loses just even a fraction of a second here, it's going to be enough to get one of these guys almost on his boot lid. Still haven't had the drive-through taken by the number 8 car for the use of the LMS air hose system. Left the car. It's a further half a second lost through Sector 1. It'll well, the normal pattern will be that Victor Scheitar grabs that time back. He's now right behind Stevie S. And probably in a part of the circuit he didn't want that to happen, because this is where he can use where the superiority under the 488 against the chasing Porsche and McLaren. Indeed, it is a slightly slower time for him through this time. Hasn't been able to take the advantage he could. It's 5.4 seconds is the gap first to third. 2.6, it comes down a little to Klaus Bachler. 15 minutes to go. Could this come down to a last lap, last gasp 3 car? He still isn't past the number 8 car. Is they going to take his drive through now? He does. That still cost, I think, the 72 car just a little time. 2:22.1 last time through, 2:22.3 this time through, against a 2:21.6 for the chasing Klaus Bachler. 2.1 seconds the gap, 2:22 dead for Adrian Quaife Hobbs. It's 5.3 seconds covering the top 3. A couple more laps like that, and these guys are going to be about 1.5 seconds apart each. Just a little time lost there by Quaife Hobbs. Lights looking ever brighter in the camera as we lose some of the ambient light around. And for the first time we see the lead gap under 2 seconds. And the gap first to third under 5. So all of a sudden the gain, having been very much in the way of McLaren on Porsche, it's Porsche on Ferrari now. And Victor Scheitar most certainly knows he's got a race on his hands. Alexei Basov keeping a close eye on what's going on. Looks fairly relaxed at the moment. Stevie S, of course, rejoining after that drive-through. Wide moment for Adrian Quaife Hobbs, sort of kicking up the dirt in the background. He's lost a little bit of time there. He's lost a second and a half to this battle, 6.6 seconds. The first mistake has come the way of the McLaren driver, by the look of things. But Klaus Bachler, I think, has got a little bit of target acquired here. Can he deliver? 2:21.6 for the leader, 2:21.4 for Bachler, 1.9 seconds at the end of the lap. And Quaife Hobbs has pitted. He's in the pits. It's a problem for the McLaren. Now what has happened here? Has he picked up a puncture? It's a problem at the left rear for the McLaren. And how close is Ewan Hankey? Left rear problem for the McLaren, and we're waiting for Ewan Hankey to come through. Something, it is, it's a puncture. It's a puncture inside. And a further issue, there's something, some debris in the wheel arch, I think. It's delaminated, and I think the debris from the tyre that's going to put Ewan Hankey through, and has already onto the podium. Yet more bad luck for this McLaren team. Absolutely astonishing. While all this is happening, by the way, Klaus Bachler is under 1.5 seconds away from the lead, and that is bitter gall for this McLaren team that looked like they could even be in contention for the win with a fighting drive back from Adrian Quaife Hobbs. That seemed to go wrong in the middle sector, dropped about 1.5 seconds I thought maybe he just had a bit of a wide moment, but it looks like that's where that tyre, Johnny Palmer, delaminated on the inside edge.
Just shows, doesn't it, how hard Adrian Quaife-Hobbs was pushing, and when you push these Michelin tyres to their limit, then they can get to breaking point. But he had no other option. You've got to close on these two cars, and if the car breaks or if the tyres pop on your way through there, then so be it. And yeah, real bad luck that for the 55 crew. I really hope they return in 17 in the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup, because that win has eluded them up until this point. There's still one more round to go, of course, at Estoril, but that team particularly has shown real promise for me, the Triple F Racing crew, particularly Hiroshi Hamaguchi. I think we've got a talent on our hands there. And
he's enthusiastic about it as well.
Yep.
The Quaife-Hobbs, by the way, has rejoined in 5th. He's dropped in behind Santamato.
2.1 seconds the gap, so it's extended very slightly first to second now, but Klaus Bachler, he's also no doubt pushing his Michelin tyres to, let's hope, not their limit, but they'll be somewhat bald, I'm sure, towards the end of this stint, because he is pushing absolutely every last element out of that car, with the carrot of Victor Scheitel getting slightly larger on the horizon with every lap, apart from the last one where he lost a bit of time, but he's got all that back again. 1.7 seconds now between Scheitel and Klaus Bachler as they break the beam at the end of the first sector.
The key is here. It's in this second sector where he needs not to lose the time. If he can just not lose time, he's actually picking up enough in the remainder of the lap to get onto terms with the Ferrari. But this is where consistently the Porsche has lost out by 3, 4, 5, 6 tenths. He's picking up time in the first and often the third sector. It's the middle sector where the Porsche has got a disadvantage to the Ferrari. He's using that age-old tactic of flashing the lights to persuade him to pull over and let him by politely. It's never worked since I've been watching motorsport, but you never do know.
By the way, Santamato has also gained a spot because of Adrian Quaife-Hobbs' issue with the rear left puncture. So the 26 car, classic modern racing machine, on course for a very good result here at Spa.
I should say, by the way, I'm going to revise what I said, because I used the P word first. I don't think that tyre had punctured. I think it had just delaminated.
Delaminated, okay, yes.
The tyre was still fully inflated, but the inside edge of the tyre had just come apart.
Away.
Under the, well, what can you say, torture of Adrian Quaife-Hobbs. Been handing it out to that Michelin like the Spanish Inquisition. Lap after lap after lap of fastest laps here. Finally paid the price. 2.1 seconds at the end of the second sector. What's he going to be at the line? 2:22.0 for the leader, 2:21.8 for the chasing Klaus Bachler. 1.9 seconds the gap, 8 minutes remaining.
Yeah, the guys at the Porsche crew, Mentos Racing, have been poring over these lap times coming in. Egidio Perfetti, conspicuous by his absence there. He's been in frame ever since he got out of the car. Maybe he's sneaked out the back just to have a little bit of a breather and to take the pressure off. He'll be back for the final 5 minutes, be assured of that. Klaus Bachler continues to make this very entertaining indeed. And these headlights are not getting brighter. That's just illustrative of how dark it is now down the Kemmel Straight. Able to pick those cars out in the gloom. 1.3 seconds now.
That's again that half a second. He consistently grabs half a second out of the leader, but he loses that and sometimes a little more in the middle sector. It's about these next few turns. This race will be decided by how quickly and consistently the 72 car gets through the middle sector for the remainder of the race.
And because it is such small margins, if he were to get to that SMP Racing Ferrari, has he got enough to overtake Victor Scheitel? Arguably not quite, but you never know. Just being so close to Scheitel there could force him into a slight error. 7 minutes to go.
Just a hint of a slide from the SMP car through Pouhon, which is not something we've seen before. We've seen what was happened to the Michelin left rear of the McLaren under the kind of punishment that's been handed out. Has Victor Scheitel just looked after them a little bit better? 64.6 second middle sector for Scheitar. It's a 65-second middle sector. So, on balance on this lap, it's maybe a tenth to the good for Backler. That's not enough.
No.
That's not enough. He needs, at this stage, because it doesn't look as if Klaus is going to make an error, he needs Scheitar to make an error, just to give him the edge he needs in that middle sector, particularly to just nibble out more of an advantage. He's catching him, but not quickly enough.
But 1.7 seconds is a very small margin after an hour and 55 minutes of racing, with a driver change, of course, as well. He's closed up by 0.055 of a second, 55 thousandths of a second, that's all. So, yes.
That's consistency between two drivers in two completely different cars, isn't it?
The gap's coming down, but as Graham says, by nowhere near enough of a margin. This is lap 47 now as they begin the ascent from Eau Rouge to Radion. Crest that rise and head down the Kemmel Straight.
3 laps left, I think.
Doing 2:21s, 2:22s, and there was about 5.5 minutes on the clock as they started this lap.
And this time Victor Scheitar does his fastest first sector of the race, reduces the damage in sector 1. He's kept something in those Michelins, hasn't he? It's 1.4 seconds the gap at the point at which it compresses to the least on the lap that it gets at the end of sector 1.
Yeah, but it was 1.3 a lap ago, so net Klaus has lost a tenth on that last lap if you count it from the end of sector 1.
It is about such fine tolerances here.
And of course, particularly fine tolerances when you've got the pro drivers in the cars, because the margin between their lap times in general is so slim. Arguably, the AM part of this race is slightly more entertaining because the variables are that much greater. You can have, you don't necessarily have the consistency that these guys at the head of the order can offer. Ewan Hankey, for example, with glowing front brake discs on his TF Sport Aston. Victor Scheitar, incredibly consistent. Klaus Beckler, incredibly consistent. With the AM drivers in, you never quite know what's going to be thrown up next. And also the difference in a very quick AM driver to the slowest AM driver is significant. Most of these guys, once you put them in a GT3 car with ABS and traction control, you're talking such small margins. You're talking hundredths of a second rather than just tenths.
Keeping an eye on Adrian Quaife-Hobbs, by the way, catching Santamato for 4th, but his pace has just gone off just a little. He'll be worried, I'm sure, about those other 3 Michelins that are still on the car. It's just the one tyre changed in that stop.
Found a quarter of a second on that lap, still not enough, but it was more than last time around. 3 minutes. And through Eau Rouge go the top 2. It's all about these 2 cars now. Ever since Adrian Quaife-Hobbs was hit by a delaminating rear left tyre, Ewan Hankey on course for a podium.
Of course, the frustration for the Porsche driver is that he knows how much quicker he is through that first sector, but he can't get close enough to use it. He can't get close enough for that to make a difference on track other than the gap. If he could get by him there, then it becomes a completely different kettle of fish.
Yes, you need to have a strong car through Eau Rouge and Radion to set yourself up to just give that little bit of an extra boost through the air that a car in front would give you down the Kemmel Straight, but he needs to get close enough for that to actually work. 1.2 seconds is now the gap, Graham.
I think he's just 2 or 3 laps too short for the rate of closing to do that. So he's going to have to rely at the moment on traffic, and there isn't any.
No,
or
not anymore.
For Victor Scheitar to make a mistake, which is something he doesn't generally tend to do. It's been a very good control race by Victor Scheitar. Let's not lose sight of the fact that there's been pressure here. He's been able to be, I'm sure he's being told that that gap is coming down lap by lap. It hasn't affected his pace one iota. Consistently 222s, 221s.
And as long as you focus on your own race rather than what's going on around you and sort of departmentalise things where possible, then you're more or less unshakable. And there have been some concerned looks down in the garages Now white flag being waved. This is Pierre-Marie Delina to be lapped for a third time. And he's got through, has the race leader.
Now that's helped him.
Yes,
this has helped him, without a shadow of a doubt.
Certainly.
Massively.
Right. Well, what have we got now? A lap to go.
Now this is where that half a second could make a difference.
Indeed.
That's exactly what we were talking about just 30 seconds ago. And that's Victor Scheitar pulls to the outside to actually take the wider line through, expecting even potentially the over and under there. Didn't have to do that. That's compromised his line a little down here. This could be really, really interesting down the Kemmel Straight. Exactly what we were saying probably couldn't happen. Traffic has now made it happen. Now, can he use the advantage he's got here up through Raidillon, down the Kemmel Straight? Has he got enough to get alongside and even by the Ferrari? I don't think he has. The gap, 0.3 of a second.
That was a better haul up the hill from Eau Rouge. The Porsche jinks out of line, but I don't think he's going to be far enough alongside. Difficult to tell with the headlights dazzling us. This is the final lap of a 2-hour race, and we've got two cars separated by a car length. Klaus Bechler with an incredibly impressive stint here. So too Victor Scheitar to soak up this pressure, but it's all come down to this. They are totally together now at Bruxelles corner. There is the start-finish line away in the distance. That's where Sergei Slobin stands, waiting for his man to come back across the line in the lead of the race. But everything's been thrown back up into the air. It shouldn't affect the championship massively, whichever way these cars finish. But in terms of a first race win of the year, Mentos Racing would dearly like to take this at Spa-Francorchamps.
It's going to come down to the final corner if it's going to happen, because it looks as if there's no advantage been taken by the Porsche in time terms in the first sector, but neither does the Ferrari seem to be able to pull away here. It's 0.3 of a second at the end of sector 1, coming to the end of sector 2 any moment now. What's it going to be? It's going to be tenths, but how many?
Campus corner.
0.7 of a second may be just enough for this Ferrari to take it.
Curve Paul Frere, 3/4 of a second now. Is tyre wear an issue for the final run through Blanchimont and into the chicane as well? We've seen the rear left tyre on the McLaren blistering majorly, so much so that Adrian Quaife-Hobbs had to stop the car. This is the point of the circuit where they had to lap Pierre-Marie Delina a lap ago into the braking area, then for the chicane, and it's just going to be out of the grasp of Egidio Perfetti and Klaus Bechler, who will finish such a close second at the end of round 5 of the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup. Sergei Slobin is so happy and no doubt relieved to see that car over the line. They've been in a race.
0.7 of a second is the gap. Keeping an eye, by the way, on that 4th place fight between Santamato and Quaife-Hobbs. That was down through the first sector to, what is that? It's under a second. It's under a second. It's about 0.7 of a second. And they too are on their last lap now. Ewan Hankey will come through to take 3rd position. So we'll complete the podium with the 34 TF Sport Aston Martin. Stevie S comes home a lap down in 6th. But what is the gap going to be for the cars in that chase for 4th position after that late pit stop robbed Adrian Quaife-Hobbs and Haruki Hamagishi from a potential podium at worst? There's Amato Ferrari in the centre there, AF Corsa. Here comes Hankey to complete the race for the 34 car, but a good season for them.
49 laps in total we got through in the 2 hours, and finishing 72 seconds adrift of the race winners, Ewan Hankey in the number 34 TF Sport Aston Martin. But it does mean that that car finishes on the podium. A few more points gathered back as far as SMP Racing are concerned in the Teams Championship, and this is very close indeed across the line for 4th place, but it's Santamato who just about gets it with Eric Cayrol, his co-driver for Classic and Modern Racing. And Santamato very happy with that indeed, weaving from left to right. He kept behind him the recovering Adrian Quaife-Hobbs.
That came courtesy, by the way, of a cracking middle and final sector from the Ferrari man. Quaife-Hobbs was coming very quickly.
Yeah.
Good race.
So
very good race.
Full marks, full points to SMP Racing in the Teams Championship, takes them to 77. And it'll be 15 points for TF Sport. That's 82. 5 points in it, heading for Estoril.
which means that if it's a 1-2 and it goes the way of SMP Racing, they will take the title because they've got more wins.
Yes, because, well, there's no one else with as many wins as SMP Racing. That's now 3 for the year. The opening round was won by TF Sport. That was the Imola race, and there's been
but Mentos Racing are not out of this.
The other win, by the way, was for the same crew, Shaitar and Basov, but with a different numbered car and a different entrant as well, so they can't count that one at Le Mans. But as you say, yes, Mentos Racing certainly not out of it with one race to go. And Gerard Neveu and Pierre Fillon of the ACO will be very happy indeed in the inaugural season of the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup to see that it's going down to the wire. There's one more 2-hour race to come on the Saturday night across the weekend in about a month's time at Estoril.
It's a 20-point gap now going into the final race in the Drivers' Championship. So the Ferrari drivers, the Russian pairing, Shaitar and Basov, have done themselves a mighty favour there and come mighty close to clinching that title.
Yeah, but they're going to have to wait around about 4 weeks.
They are.
Before...
And 2 hours.
And 2 hours indeed, yes. To a point where we get to Estoril in Portugal to compete over that 2 hours on the Saturday night, the final round of the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup, which will decide not only where the Drivers' Championship goes for this inaugural season, but also the teams as well.
And in no small part, the dramas for the McLaren have kept that as open as it is by just a few more points going the way of the Aston Martin team. That has helped the drama the final round, I'm sure. And they'd be quite right, Ricky. And Adrian would not see it that way.
So, date for your diary is the 22nd of October, which is the final round at Autodromo de Estoril for the 4 hours of Estoril for the ELMS race, that is. But of course, the 2 hours for the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup. Klaus Bachler quickly into conversation with Egidio Perfetti.
He looks frustrated, actually.
I have tried my absolute best to catch that Ferrari, and I came within 0.7 of a second of it, but there was just no opportunity to get any closer than that, no opportunity to try and overtake, and there'll be a warm handshake here between Victor Shaitar and Klaus Bachler, I'm sure.
He did enjoy that.
Yeah, he did.
The irony is that actually being as close as he was where he was on the circuit didn't do him a favour, because it meant that his entry into Eau Rouge and up through Radion was slightly compromised. So actually he lost the Ferrari lost less time to the Porsche than on any other lap that I've seen when they were closest together.
Yes. And you really need that sort of jettison out of Eau Rouge and through Radion to give you the drag down the Kemmel Straight. But they've fended them off. SMP Racing with another victory. Let's hear from the two drivers with Charlie George.
Yeah, I'm down here with Victor Shaitar. Victor, another win for SMP Racing, but that one wasn't easy.
I don't know. We just try to do a good job. Yesterday we have a little problem in the car, but after we changed it up and find something new, and the car was very good, because today morning in qualification Alex did a good job. He did a fantastic lap time and win pole position. He did his thing very well after we changed drive I. And you know, everything was perfect, but to the end I think I have some problem from I think rear right tire. I think my pressure down because car start move sliding. Klaus was very fast, very close, and I just try concentrate. I don't did any mistake, and we can win. I'm happy about it. Now we have a more big gap for the championship. We have one more race, and we fight for the win. Thank you very much. Катюха, привет.
Thank you, Victor.
Always fun, but a very informative chat there with Victor.
Yes.
He was in trouble.
Yes, agreed. And, well, you spotted it, that the car just became a little bit more wayward in the last 15 minutes or so and sensed a rear right tyre pressure issue. So unlike the McLaren that we now see in the middle of the shot for Adrian Quaife-Hobbs, which was a rear left tyre starting to delaminate, not to lose pressure and to start to go down. That wasn't a slow puncture, that was just a tyre having been used too much and too much of a rate, I suppose. So yes, the problems there for the 51 Ferrari and the 66 Lamborghini Huracan. They clashed at Eau Rouge on only lap 2, and sadly at that point we were down from 12 cars to only 10, and subsequently we would lose the Aston Martin, the number 90 car as well, to the pit lane because of a clutch related issue, which was an unusual problem for a GT3 car. That was a fabulous overtake from Alexei Basov, which you could argue won the two guys the race, both Victor Scheitar and Alexei Basov. But Scheitar at that point was a mere spectator and will have been geeing on Basov to pull off that manoeuvre around the outside of Hiroshi Hamaguchi. That was Adrian Delina with an overtake at the end of the Kemmel Straight. Sally Yolok overshot his pit box as he came down the lane, and the 55 McLaren needing to have the rear left tyre attended to, almost down to the canvas there, as you can see. But the tyre still inflated, strangely enough. Ewan Hankey, a sign of how hard he was pushing with the front brake disc glowing in the gloom. And we are at almost complete darkness now here at Spa. We've into the gloaming, and the 20 to 8 local time. A good Saturday night affair that, which kept us guessing till the very last page. And Sergei Slobin, his celebration is something to witness. A real love for this sport. Races himself, of course, but was willing the 72 car across the line after 49 laps. 0.722 of a second. You'll take that after 2 hours of racing, Graham.
You most certainly will. And that was entertaining stuff from, well, to be honest with you, much of the field, but in particular those top 3 cars in the last 45 minutes or so. They were just nibbling away. And you know, it's always good to get confirmation that there was a minor issue there, but to fight with that minor issue is no mean feat. That was an excellent drive from Victor Scheitar. Brilliant stuff from Klaus Bachler at the end there, and credit too as well to Adrian Quaife-Hobbs, who really kept that race alive and got the McLaren back into it. Just a shame they couldn't turn that car around quickly enough that he could retain any kind of hope whatsoever of a podium, but that's helped Adrian Ewan Hankey and Sally Yolok to stay in the fight.
Yeah, and sadly for Adrian Quaife-Hobbs and his teammate Hiroshi Hamaguchi, they just missed out on a 4th place finish on that recovery drive. So to the podium, it'll be Ewan Hankey and Sally Yolok to finish in 3rd position. To the 2nd step, Klaus Bachler and Egidio Perfetti for the Mentos Racing crew and their Porsche. But another win for the SMP Racing duo of Victor Scheitar and Alex Basov after a thoroughly impressive opening stint. 3 bottles of champagne you can see sitting on the top step of the podium, because there'll be one for one of the crew as well from SMP Racing / AF Corsa. Good to see Amato Ferrari, the big grin on his face as well after another victory. Here is the national anthem of the winning team. Alex Basov and Victor Scheitar joined by Sergei Slobin on the top step of the podium, and now the presentations will be made then with a champagne bottle each to Ewan Hankey and Sally Yolok, winners at Imola rather, for the opening round and the inaugural round of the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup. Smart trophies for those 2 drivers as well, and they will be presented now. Sergei Slobin, an early starter there, trying to get the cork at least semi-released from the bottle so that he can no doubt cover his teammates in bubbly in a moment or two's time.
Belgian national colours on the trophies.
So a big grin there from Klaus Bechler and Egidio Perfetti. They tried absolutely everything to get in front of those two chaps to their left, but it wasn't quite good enough. And Victor Scheitar and Alexei Basov with the thumbs up there, with another first place trophy to take home with them back to Russia. Sergei Slobin having got the catch off that bottle.
I think he
very
just
sharp.
wants to drink it, really.
Yeah, maybe you did. Well, I mean, he was probably the most stressed of anyone down in the garage. And there is how the points lie then once you've added the latest accumulation to the points. It's 103
because there was the one for pole position as well.
Yes, you get a point for fastest for pole position rather, and then the 25 takes them to 103 points. Klaus Bechler and Egidio Perfetti not quite in the championship hunt after that, and many of those drivers, although Santamato and K-Roll straight up into 15th position with their 12 points each. Sadly, Mark Poole and Richard Abra did not score after clashing with Thomas Fleur at Eau Rouge Corner. A number of drivers, though, have taken part in this championship. Most of these guys were at the Road to Le Mans event across the weekend of the 24 Hours of Le Mans in June. So it will go down to the final round, I'm pleased to say. It'll be 4 weeks' time. And here is how the Teams Championship is looking. TF Sport with 82 points. They lead by 4 from SMP Racing. Again, an extra point for pole position. Mentos Racing, 8 points adrift in third. And Triple F Racing, despite their 5th place finish in that, managed to get 46 points. My thanks to Graham Goodwin from Johnny Palmer here at Spa. It's good night.